Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Kaguya Otsutsuki unlocked the legacy of Naruto. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by DJUNK101, link in the description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. The ninja of Team 7 braced themselves as they looked upon the rabbit goddess Kaguya as she stood before the riding ball of Biju chakra, the faces of the great chakra beasts twisting in agony as the mother of all chakra bound them to her will. Into the ground, Black Zetsu peered from the arm that had been severed from his mother, although her ability to perfectly create chakra limbs left her unaffected by a usually crippling injury. Soon mother will end this. It thought to itself, satisfied in the knowledge of his mother's superiority over the drained ninja. Team 7 were all looking worse for wear, even Naruto and his clones were looking slightly drained. They were all encased in Kakashi's Susanoo, protecting them from Kaguya for the time being, although it was no secret to the tired ninja that their respite was only temporary. What the hell? Naruto exclaimed as he stared up at the giant black orb before him as he stood within Kakashi's Susanoo. That's the same as the balls I've got behind me. He jerked a thumb at the small black sphere floating behind him, except it's way bigger and it keeps getting larger and larger. Hamui can't teleport something of that magnitude. Kakashi sounded tired, his body struggling to maintain the Susanoo, Obito's last gift to him. Even if we were to run away by teleporting to the space-time dimension, if that thing keeps growing larger, there is no way we'd be able to return. So we've got to stop it, Sasuke remarked bluntly. In other words, Naruto pointed at Kaguya, we've got no choice but to seal the real body of that old rabbit hag. It would seem so. In spite of the seriousness of their situation, Sakura couldn't help but slightly smile at Naruto's remark. Trust that idiot to go around insulting the closest thing we'll ever see to a god. You certainly talk a big game. He heard Yun Kurama's voice. I'm assuming you have some sort of plan. I'm working on it. I mean, how hard could this be? We have Sasuke, Sakura-chan and Kakashi-sensei. Not to mention me. We are screwed, aren't we? Huddle up. Kakashi looked at his students. Here's the plan. As the former Team 7, this will be your final mission. He delivered the line sternly as Naruto and Sasuke stared down the rabbit goddess. We're going to save the world. HN, Sasuke grunted in the standard Uchiha style. Yeah. Naruto declared, getting pumped up. Roger. Sakura saluted, hanging back with Kakashi whilst watching her two fellow teammates get ready to face the biggest threat of their lives. Kaguya merely looked at them with disdain. I am immortal. She paused for dramatic effect, feeling slightly annoyed by the complete lack of response from Team 7. But if either one of you dies, you will no longer be able to seal me. So then Kaguya narrowed her eyes. Which of you shall it be? I'll be your opponent, bitch. Naruto declared boisterously. Classy. Yin Kurama rolled its eyes. Bitch. Kaguya's eye twitched. What a crude young man. No, Sasuke stepped forward, let's take her on together. That way there's twice as much of a threat of being sealed for her. He glanced over his shoulder at Kakashi and nodded before turning back to Naruto. Bring them along the way and send them flying. Kakashi charged Kaguya, his Susanoo raising its sword high as Naruto and Sasuke slipped from it, Naruto's clones surrounding them. Do they think I don't see them? Kaguya glanced at Kakashi, deciding to eliminate him to prevent any distractions. She suddenly charged Kakashi with a speed even his Sharingan was unable to track effectively, resulting in the rabbit goddess getting up close before he could even swing his sword. And this is where your tale ends. So sad, but you brought the suffering on yourself. At least I will make your death painless. That is the least I can do. She extended her palm and launched several ash-killing spears at the Susanoo, shattering it with minimal effort and watching dispassionately as a spear tore through Kakashi's chest. She scowled as the attack seemed to pass straight through Kakashi without injuring him. I really love this ability, Obito. Kakashi smirked as he closed in on the rabbit goddess, who seemed taken aback by his survival. And now it is time to bring back this technique. His hands flew through hand seals faster than the eye could track, casing his arm and lighting and lashing out at the goddess. Kamui Kiri. What? Kaguya scowled as the attack struck her arm. This pain. My arm, she scowled as the jutsu interfered with her chakra limb, causing it to go unresponsive. Why? Why do they resist? Do they rejoice in suffering? Do they not want peace? As she tried to regenerate the severed limb, her Byakugan picked up on two chakra sources, charging her from two directions. I only need to remove one of them. Kaguya frowned before she remembered all of the clones. Which one is the real one? I can't let them seal me. Not when I am this close to finally achieving peace. Mother. Black Zetsu called from the sleeve, trying to manipulate Kaguya's severed arm into launching an ash-killing spear. There's no time. I have to escape. Kaguya leapt upwards. Launching a spear at Naruto as a distraction and relying on Zetsu to deal with Sasuke, Kaguya started to form a portal to escape and rethink her strategy. She watched as Naruto got impaled by the spear and dispersed into nothing with what was Sasuke becoming Naruto with a puff of smoke. So they were both Ashura's successor, Kaguya thought to herself, somewhat impressed by the plan. He must have transformed when they fell from the chakra construct. Still it matters not, she smirked as she saw the opening of a smaller portal. Soon you will be punished for defying a goddess and I shall be elsewhere, stranding your friends in this dimension. Their desire for war shall see that they never witness the harmony of my new world. Her smirk vanished as she witnessed the telltale distortion of a Kamui and the attack aimed at Naruto vanished. I am really starting to hate that ability. I knew I should have eliminated him first. She noticed one of the clones turn into Sasuke. And now Indra's successor appears. They must be planning to seal me with a desperate last lunge. She glanced at the portal she had formed. Almost there, maybe I could send them to the ice dimension. No, Indra's successor can use Amaterasu. That won't work. I just need to get anywhere other than here. She tried to soar upwards but was shocked when she sensed someone appear just behind her, that someone being Sakura. Wait, she was in the Byakugan's blind spot. How did she know? Kaguya tried to avoid her attack, but the effort of opening the portal was slowing her down, just enough for the pink-haired ninja to deliver a powerful punch and knock her towards the successors of Ashura and Indra, one of her horns breaking from the impact, but it was of little concern to the rabbit goddess. The portal is ready. She smirked and dived for it. Not so fast. Naruto summoned a clone and kicked off of it for a burst of extra speed. This ends here. Sasuke declared as he launched a giant fireball to propel him towards Kaguya. Almost there. Kaguya suddenly felt a shiver through her entire body. No. She glanced at the grinning Naruto and satisfied-looking Sasuke. You know not what you are about to do. This is the only way the world will know peace. Now. Sasuke yelled as he reached out. Shanro. Sakura yelled as the Naruto and Sasuke placed their palms against Kaguya. Yosh. Naruto cried out as he felt the seal start to do its thing. No, this world's last chance for peace, Kaguya whispered as she felt the seal start to sap her of her strength. She looked in despair as her regenerated limb disintegrated without her powers to maintain it. The portal was so close she could practically smell the other dimension, but without her powers, it was starting to crackle violently. Naruto. Sasuke. Get out of there. Kakashi roared, seeing the unstable portal swell, threatening to swallow them all. What? Sasuke scowled at Kakashi as Naruto looked at the portal. Crap. Naruto realized what was about to happen. The portal was starting to expand, but the Uchiha was too busy trying to make out what Kakashi was saying to realize the potential danger. Get out of the way, team. What did you? Sasuke turned to face Naruto only to find the blonde's boot in his face, kicking him away from Kaguya. What was that for, dope? Sasuke blinked as the portal suddenly expanded, swallowing Naruto and Kaguya before vanishing, leaving only a faint distortion in space-time. Dope. Sasuke repeated uncertainly. Where did Naruto go, Kakashi-sensei? Sakura glanced at Kakashi who was staring blankly into space. Naruto. Kakashi lowered his head. There are sacrifices in every war, Sasuke scowled at the floor. Idiot, who does he think he is saving me? He angrily glared at the distortion. How are we going to have our final battle now? You never think anything out. He clenched his fists angrily. Sasuke-kun. Sakura was shocked by Sasuke's words. As much as it pains me to agree with him, he is right, Kakashi shook his head sadly. It is just like Naruto to put others before himself. Kakashi-sensei, stop that. Sakura whispered. Stop acting like Naruto's dead. He can't be. He's going to be the Hokage. Her shoulders shuddered as she fought back the tears. Before they could say any more, the three ninja found themselves standing in the middle of a summoning circle. But the Sakura looked around. Welcome home, Kakashi-kun, you look tired. Minato laughed. Sensei. Kakashi's shoulders slumped. Where is Naruto? Minato looked around for his son. The Kakashi looked at the floor. I am sorry, Sensei, I couldn't save him. Pardon? Minato blinked. He sacrificed himself to save me. Sasuke scowled. You'd better pray that isn't so. Kurama glared at the Uchiha. I can still sense my yin half, although it is growing weaker. Is he dying? Matatabi glanced at the Nine Tails. I don't think so, it's less like he is fading away and more like he is going further away. His energy isn't dropping, just getting more distant. Kurama closed his eyes. You look sad, Kurama. You must really like Naruto, eh? Jayuki teased. What? Kurama glared at his fellow Biju. I don't miss that idiot. Outsundeer Kyuubi, Minato smiled softly. To be able to win over the Kyuubi, you really are something special, son. I know you're alright. I feel it in my heart. Plus, you're too much like your mother to let something like being sent into a different dimension to stop you. I will end you, Yondaime. And that went so well for you last time. Kurama closed his eyes with a faint smile. To suppose it actually did, at least in the long run. Wait, did the sealing work? Kaguya escaped to another dimension with Naruto. She could come back at any time. Sakura interrupted Kurama's train of thought. Kaguya's powers have been sealed away, even if she herself has not. Hagoromo walked up to Sasuke, who merely scowled in response. Sasuke-kun, who is this? Sakura asked. I believe you would know me as the Sage of Six Paths. He smiled. Do you know where Kaguya fled? No, but without her powers it would be very difficult if not impossible for her to return. The world is safe. But what about Naruto? Sakura asked angrily. Can we get him back? That would be most difficult, Hagoromo frowned. But you were able to summon all of us, weren't you? Sasuke pointed out. Yes, but I knew where you all were, the sage shook his head. I have no idea where Ashura's successor is right now. If Kaguya still had her power, I might be able to track her given the strength she had, but I am afraid Naruto must make his own way back. He'll do it, Sakura declared. HN, Sasuke nodded curtly. That idiot has the weirdest luck. He's Kushina-chan's son, Minato smiled softly. He'll definitely make his way back home. I was hoping to see if Naruto and Sasuke could finally end the brothers' hatred. Hagoromo looked at Sasuke, the legacy of Indra and Ashura, but it appears as if that will not happen. He closed his arms and put his palms together, and with this the infinite Tsukiyomi ends. Just like that. Sakura blinked. Indeed, Hagoromo opened his eyes. Your friends are free and my duty here is done. I pray that Naruto returns to this dimension. Maybe then the brothers' conflict can finally have a satisfying conclusion. I hope so, Sakura mumbled, her confidence faltering as she saw the survivors of the Rookie 11 make their way towards her. I really hope so. She looked away, unable to take the look of fear on Hinata's face. Where is Naruto-kun? She frowned. I can't see him. The dope got himself sent to another dimension. Well, can't we get him back? Hinata asked. Dimensional travel isn't that simple. Kakashi smiled weakly. But you can do it, right? Kiba stepped forward. He is gone. Accepted. Sasuke stated bluntly. Naruto. Hinata stepped backwards as if she had been struck. Sasuke-kun. Sakura stepped forward. He never gave up on you. Kiba advanced on the Uchiha angrily. But you would just give up on him that easily. I never asked him to get involved in my life. You bastard. Kiba growled and stepped forwards. Hey Kiba-kun, Hinata tried to stop her teammate as Sakura tried to defuse the situation. You've barely been gone for 10 minutes and already everyone is at each other's throats. Sakura bit her lip. Please come back soon, Naruto. Elsewhere, Naruto blinked stupidly as he stared at an empty-eyed Kaguya. The two of them were surrounded by completely featureless white space. There was no wind, no noise, nothing. His mind told him he was falling, but there was no air rushing past him and his clothes remained flat against his body. So Naruto coughed awkwardly after what had seemed like an eternity to him. Are you going to attack me? You don't understand what you have done, do you? Kaguya sounded tired. Hopefully I stopped you. Naruto rubbed the back of his head awkwardly. Oh, you did that? Kaguya went to clap before realizing that she was an arm short, staring at the loose kimono sleeve hanging from her left shoulder. You won. Congratulations. You just stopped the last chance of peace for the entire world. Tell me, how do you like your reward? Naruto fidgeted awkwardly. Did we die? If this is purgatory, that is possible. Kaguya frowned. And you open a portal to escape. How? Kaguya snapped. You've stripped me of my chakra. We are stuck in this space between dimensions until we reach the exit. I have never created a portal this long before. You mean the seal worked? Naruto sighed in relief. Wait, did I seal myself with you? How am I going to become Hokage if I am sealed away? I told you we are in a space between dimensions. Kaguya scowled at the panicking blonde. Your seal only affects me, and even then it was only a partial effect. Kaguya glared at him. All the chakra I had has been stripped. Everything for your coils is sealed away. Coils? Kaguya chuckled mirthlessly. I don't have chakra coils. Hagoromo was the one who created them in humanity. My power stemmed from another source. The 10 tails. That is one name for it, I suppose. Kaguya conceded. At least one that someone as limited as you could comprehend. I was a goddess until you cast me from my throne with your desire for eternal war. I have no love of war. I wanted to stop the war that was happening, and that's why I stopped you. Naruto scowled. If you truly wanted the war to end, you could have just surrendered rather than prolong the war and suffering. You had everyone trapped in a genjutsu and sucked their chakra from them. And is that so wrong? Kaguya frowned. They were happy. They had their dreams realized. There was peace, but now there will be naught but more anger, hatred and death. That is your victory. You have little faith in people, don't you? Naruto shook his head. Well, I guess I'll just have to show you the error of your ways. I have witnessed the darkness of humanity. I know too well your legacy of hate and war. Kaguya put her arm on her hip. I will not be swayed by your words. Sure, humanity is pretty dark at times, Naruto nodded, but there is light in there as well. I mean, did you see us? We all allied together, all the villages united as one to stop you. There is hope for humanity. You are a naive fool, Kaguya scoffed. Well, you are just a cynical old rabbit hag. I may no longer be a goddess, but I am a princess. You will address me as such. Okay, Princess Rabbit Hag. I will not be drawn into your childish games. Kaguya declared. Naruto opened his mouth to retort when suddenly his entire body jerked as if someone had tugged sharply on a rope wrapped around his waist. He blinked and found himself laid down on a strange black material with white lines on it. Glancing around he saw massive buildings that looked incredibly foreign to him. Some were made from glass and seemed to be so tall they dwarfed the Hokage monument. People wearing strange outfits had stopped and were looking at them, some of them had pulled strange devices from their pockets and were pointing them at him. Straining his senses, he failed to detect any chakra from them, although he could understand what they were saying, or at least most of it anyway. He wasn't sure what Nico Dauga was or what uploading meant, but parts of their language was recognizable to him. Apparently he was stood on a road and the strange metal things racing by him making strange honking noises were cars. As he took in his strange surroundings, he saw Kaguya struggling to stand with her one arm. She glared at him as he walked towards her. Stay back. She barked at Naruto, I will not be pitied by your kind. Eh? Naruto blinked as Kaguya stood up. You who profit from war will gain no satisfaction from me. Arg. Kaguya pointed her arm at Naruto. I have lost all of my powers, she mumbled as she attempted to launch an ash-killing spear at Naruto with no success, and I am trapped in this strange dimension. She clenched her fist angrily. I have failed my dimension and this is my hell. You can't use any of your powers. Naruto bit his lip uncertainly. This could be a trap. Kurama warned him. I don't know. Look at her. Naruto felt sorry for the former goddess. She's just had all of her plans derailed and her powers stolen. She tried to kill everyone. I think she was trying to save them in her own way. Just a really messed up and completely wrong way. I may not be the original Kurama that was sealed within you, but I have a vague recollection of his memories, enough to know that you always see the best in people and somehow get them to see it too, although if you win her over I think we can upgrade your friendship power from impressive to godly. Naruto walked towards the distraught princess, suddenly crouching as he noticed movement out of the corner of his eye and turned to face the new threat. It was a strange metal vehicle, kind of like the train he had seen previously whilst in the land of spring, except this didn't seem to run on tracks. He could make out an angry man through a glass window on front of the vehicle who was pointing at Kaguya and gesturing wildly for her to move. Princess Bunny Hag. Naruto coughed awkwardly. What? Kaguya noticed the rapidly approaching vehicle, its wheels locked up as it struggled to stop. Oh, without my powers I guess there is no point in trying to escape. My only victory is that the Ashura successor will be trapped here. She closed her eyes and awaited the embrace of death. What the hell? Naruto raced towards her. Kurama. I need some more chakra. I'm running on empty. Sorry kid. I don't know why, but your chakra system is busted. I'm working on fixing it, but it will take a few more minutes. I don't have enough time. Naruto dived at the strangely relaxed Kaguya, pushing her out of the way of the truck and onto a raised sidewalk. What? Kaguya opened her eyes and met Naruto's. Is that concern? Why would someone who profits from war be concerned about my well-being? He noticed her curious expression and smiled just as the truck hit him, skidding forwards a good 12 feet as other vehicles swerved and crashed into each other. In a matter of minutes, the road had become a war zone, with crashed cars and angry humans getting out of them. Amongst the angry yells and confused cries, Kaguya sat on the sidewalk confused. Why? Kaguya continued to stare at the spot where she had made eye contact with Naruto. Why did he do that? Several minutes earlier, I hate my job sometimes, Kuroko Smith groaned as she sat in her favorite cafe, nursing a lukewarm cup of coffee, her usual appreciation for the caffeinated beverage dulled by the sheer magnitude of the task before her. Several folders lay on her table, problem cases for her agency. Each one has a red stamp across the front, application to host program denied. Cohabitation impossible. She crossed her legs, adjusting her tights under her skirt before returning her attention to the documents. Absent-mindedly brushing a speck of dust from her suit jacket. All of them were declared too dangerous or troublesome to be allowed a human handler. Usually this would have just resulted in their applications being rejected, and that was that, but in this case, these girls were ones Kuroko had interviewed herself and knew that they were fit for introduction into human life. Unfortunately, when she had pointed this out to her superiors, they had decided if they girls truly were capable of learning to live alongside humans, the Ms. Smith would be the one to set them up with a suitable host. Usually this wouldn't have been too hard, Kuroko has access to a database of all registered hosts, and with the help of a few key phrases, she could have her host greeting his or her new arrivals within a day. She had mastered the art of assigning hosts to maximize the time she had for personal pursuits, and initially had thought that it would be easy to find suitable hosts for these dangerous girls. Unfortunately for Kuroko, these girls required a special case. The handler would have to be far stronger than the average human in order to maximize his chances of survival. There were a few handlers that could have satisfied this criteria, but not a lot. Next they would have to be kind and calming, considering the easily agitated nature of some of the girls. This left 2 hosts. Finally, they would have to live in a remote area or at the very least be prepared to move to a remote area. This would allow the girls to gradually become accustomed to light human traffic and grow more comfortable with human interaction before throwing them in the deep end on a city visit. This was where things became difficult. None of the registered hosts were prepared to move and all of them lived in the city center. Kuroko was at her wit's end. These girls, and her spare time, were counting on her to solve the handler issue quickly and promptly. But where am I going to find such a person? Kuroko took her sunglasses off and rubbed her forehead before replacing the glasses and standing up, tucking the files under her arm and leaving the store, half-drank coffee left forgotten in her frustration. As she got out she saw a strange liminal, one that she couldn't place, stood in the middle of the road. The blonde male, probably her handler, was talking to her, but it didn't look as if the one-armed liminal was paying any attention. Great, a handler who can't control his liminals, Kuroko scoffed. Some of these handlers must have paid someone to get put on the register, probably hoping for a cute catgirl or something. She sighed. Oh crap. I left my coffee behind. She noticed the approaching truck. That's not good. Get off of the road. She watched in shock as the human pushed the strange-looking woman out of the way of the vehicle, taking the hit in her place. The liminal was pushed onto the sidewalk, staring blankly at the spot where her handler had been. Damn it, Kuroko cursed and ran over as the stunned liminal stood staring into space. What the hell, you damn monster. The driver of the truck that had struck the handler kicked his door open and dived out of his truck, making a beeline for the stunned woman. What did you think you were doing? This is a liminal incident, Ms. Smith cleared her throat. Damn monsters shouldn't be allowed out if they can't follow orders. How am I going to be able to work knowing I killed a man? Say your government right. I'd better get some compensation for this crap. I will deal with your complaints in a moment. She noticed that many other cars had crashed in their attempts to miss the truck, and a whole horde of angry people were starting to congregate around the silent liminal. Not good, she pressed a concealed button on the inside of her suit, sounding the silent alarm to the Mon squad. Listen everyone. I know that you are all angry but, son of a bitch. Eh? The angry crowd went silent as the sound of metal groaning reverberated from the front of the truck and the blonde human staggered towards them, blood leaking from a cut on his forehead, but otherwise unharmed. What is that? Sir? Ms. Smith blinked. Are you okay? Huh? Naruto shook his head, clearly the fog from his brain. Oh crap. Princess Bunny Hag. Boo. Ms. Smith tilted her head as Naruto ran over to Kaguya. Hey, you in there? Naruto reached out to shake Kaguya, but she grabbed his outstretched arm tightly. Why did you save me? Do you want me to suffer this weakness? Weakness? Naruto looked thoughtful. Okay, so you've lost your powers, but it isn't all that bad. So you can't fight anymore, but didn't you say you wanted peace? Isn't this better for you? How can I achieve peace if I can't fight? Peace shouldn't be achieved by fighting. That's why your peace would never work. Naruto sat down next to Kaguya. Peace can only be achieved by 2 people sitting down and understanding each other. Okay. Your argument makes some sense, Kaguya agreed. But some people are unwilling to listen and see things from another's point of view. Well, in that case you just have to try harder to get them to hear you. Naruto nodded sagely. Is that so? Kaguya frowned as she stared at Naruto. That is a very simplistic way of looking at things. Peace by talking would be nice, but it is a child's dream. Maybe, Naruto admitted, but I won't know unless I try. What a strange human you are, Kaguya shook her head. I don't understand what is going on here, Ms. Smith cleared her throat, but I am afraid I need you both to come with me. Why? Naruto asked. I am afraid that you will have to have your permit revoked. By what? Naruto blinked. Your handler's permit. What? Naruto repeated. You are a handler, right? I have no idea what you are talking about. I am a ninja. A ninja? That's right. She's a bunny goddess. Okay, Kuroko nodded to the paramedics who started to examine Naruto. Clearly you have taken some brain damage. It isn't a surprise. If anything, the fact that you appear so healthy is a surprise. You were just hit by, I'd say, about 20 tons at high speed. How are you alive? If he could survive that, then he could survive anything. If he isn't her handler yet tried to save her, maybe the solution to my nightmares has just landed itself in my lap. Oh, that's easy. Naruto laughed. I just use chakra to protect myself. I would have been able to avoid all this hassle if someone had been a little faster in providing me with some. Hey, we both lost a lot of chakra fighting Kaguya. Not my fault that you wasted almost all of yours and had to wait on me to channel what little I had left you. Give me some credit that you aren't a smear on the front of that thing. Kurama grumbled. Chakra? Ms. Smith frowned. Isn't that something to do with meditation? Before Naruto could answer, there was a cry of alarm and Kaguya found herself pulled to her feet by one of the drivers. Let go of me. Do you know who it is you touched? Kaguya pulled herself free from the irate driver. Bitch, did you see what you did to my new car? He snarled at her. Who is going to reimburse me, huh? You say that as if it is my concern, Kaguya brushed her kimono. My mind is burdened by greater concerns than that of the lower classes. Like how am I going to get back home and save my world from the wars that will one day destroy it? Lower, who the hell do you think you are? The driver went to punch Kaguya. Sir. Ms. Smith mentally cursed. If he hits her, hey. Naruto erupted into a golden aura, a giant golden hand grabbing the man and lifting him up. What the another new liminal? Ms. Smith blinked. Were you really going to hit a defenseless woman? Naruto yelled at the driver. He put me down. You monster. Like I haven't heard that before. Naruto's fringe covered his eyes. But if you ask me, he looked up, his blue eyes piercing the very soul of the driver. Those who would attack a harmless old lady are the real monsters. Old. Ms. Smith looked at Kaguya. She doesn't look that much older than me. Wait, does that mean I look old? Before she could have an image crisis, a familiar voice sounded in her ear. I'm in position. A soft voice sounded in Ms. Smith's concealed earpiece. Manako, Smith let out a happy sigh. Wait for my signal. Please drop him, she called out to Naruto. I am afraid should you attack you will be deported to your homeland. Ha. I'd like to see her try. I can't just stand back and let someone get hurt for something that wasn't their fault. Naruto dropped the man. That being said, I am not here to cause trouble. He glanced over his shoulder at the top of the building and scowled. Ah. Manako. Smith hissed. What's wrong? He looked at me right in the eye. That's not possible, she glanced at Naruto, still clad in his golden cloak. You are on the top of an 80-floor building. Huh? Naruto frowned. Never seen a girl with one eye before. I mean Kaguya has had 3. He glanced at the sullen goddess. Although I guess the third eye relied on chakra, so she lost that when Sasuke and I sealed her. Pardon? Ms. Smith blinked. Oh, there is a girl with one eye on top of that building. Naruto pointed. He's pointing right at me. What kind of a liminal are you? Kuroko asked. Liminal? Naruto blinked. Like how I am a human, Ms. Smith explained. Oh, I'm a human too, Naruto nodded and dispelled his cloak. What? And she's Naruto glanced at Kaguya. I am not of this world, Kaguya remarked. Well, Kuroko let out a sigh of relief as a giant figure completely covered in a giant bomb disposal suit walked towards them. Tainisha. I'm glad you were able to make it. Wow, Naruto looked up at the 8-foot-tall behemoth. Could I persuade you to come with me? Peacefully, preferably. Okay. Naruto nodded. What about PRH? PRH? Smith blinked. Princess Rabbit Hag, Naruto smirked. It's quicker and easier to say that. She will come with us. Smith nodded to Tainisha, who carefully picked up Kaguya. Unhand me, you giant beast. Kaguya demanded. Huh, Naruto chuckled as the giant figure threw Kaguya over her shoulder and followed Kuroko. To think literally an hour ago she was the biggest threat to the elemental nations. Haha, karma's a bitch. Kurama chuckled. Is something funny? Kaguya, resigned to her fate, glared at Naruto as he trailed behind the ogre. And no, Naruto smiled weakly and stepped back. She might not have her chakra, but she has one hell of a glare. It was all Naruto's fault. She can't hear you. I'm not taking any chances. Kurama mumbled. Cultural Exchange HQ. Naruto looked around curiously as he sat at a large wooden table. Kaguya and himself had both been dragged into the office and left there, the giant behemoth clad in armor standing over them. Ms. Smith was sat opposite him, currently reading a few files, biting her lip occasionally and jotting things down in a notebook. So, Naruto coughed awkwardly. What do you want to talk about? Ms. Smith looked at him over the top of her sunglasses and sighed. Well, we are currently waiting on some forms to carry out a few tests on you. Nothing too serious. Tests? Naruto felt his heart thudding in his chest. No fair. I thought I was done with tests. Say, Naruto. Aren't you still a genin? Wouldn't that mean you have the Chunin and Jounin exams still to do? What? I saved the world, damn it. That's gotta be worth a promotion to at least Jounin. Basically, you will provide us with a sample and we will send it down to our labs. Ms. Smith returned her attention to her files. Oh, okay, Naruto nodded and returned to looking around the room. There were various things that he didn't recognize. Hey, what's that thing? He whispered to Kaguya, nodding at a large black machine with a small gap, roughly big enough to fit your hand in. It had several buttons and a display that simply displayed no change. Why are you asking me? Kaguya glared at the strange contraption. It is probably some sort of torture device used on those who want to overthrow the ruling dynasty, hence the words no change. Of course I will not be tortured as I am a noble. You on the other hand. What do you mean? I'm technically a prince if you think about it. How so? Well, my dad was the leader of my village, Naruto pointed out. That would make him like a king and me a prince, right? And you're the rabbit princess, so technically we are equally noble from a certain point of view. No. She firmly denied Naruto's logic and fixed him with a soul-searing glare. I refuse to share my noble title with you. Geez, Naruto looked away, the intensity of her glare unnerving him. It is an interesting device, isn't it? Kaguya turned her glance to the strange contraption. Maybe they put your hand in that slot and press some of those buttons and the different buttons inflict a different torture. Like what? Maybe one pulls out your fingernails, another keeps cutting you with increasingly deeper cuts until your hand is shredded like confetti. Why you think? Naruto gulped. How do you know so much about torture? Are you some sort of sadist? A noble never dirties their own hands. It is our duty to be the paragon of what everyone should aspire to be. So when did you give up on that idea and settle for being some mad genocidal bunny hag? Naruto flinched under her glare. Back when I was a child we had a torturer, Kaguya shook her head sadly. It was a sad thing that such a person was necessary to protect my people. Why did you need one? How can I protect those I am sworn to care for if I do not know what threats exist? My enemies were seldom kind enough to send me a letter containing all of their plans. Well, Naruto faltered. Even so, I don't believe torture is the way forward. Oh, and your village didn't have any torturers? Naruto looked away awkwardly. That's what I thought, Kaguya nodded, feeling smug, although this feeling evaporated rather quickly when Ms. Smith walked over to the strange machine. Naruto and Kaguya suddenly felt very nervous. Ladies first, I suppose. Ms. Smith turned to Kaguya. Torture sure is inheritor if you must, but I will never speak. Kaguya declared. Yeah? Naruto nodded. Wait, what did you say? Torture? Ms. Smith chuckled. I know the coffee here is pretty grim, but I wouldn't go that far. Coffee? Kaguya and Naruto glanced at each other before watching Ms. Smith press several buttons and a small plastic cup appeared in the opening, which Ms. Smith took out and sipped before grimacing. The person who built this contraption should be arrested for crimes against caffeine, she muttered before sitting down. Are you sure I can't get you anything to drink? I used to be impartial to a glass of wine, Kaguya nodded. Left in a cellar for 250 years and made from the finest grapes. It used to cost as much as an entire village. A drink such as that would be fine for my tastes. I don't think we have anything that expensive, Ms. Smith's sweat dropped. Water's fine with me, Naruto beamed. Now that we can accommodate. Ms. Smith walked over to him and handed him the drink, which Naruto quickly drank. Let me take that back, she smiled and put the cup in a sealed bag before walking over to Tainisha and taking a long silvery strand of hair from her armor and putting it in another bag and handing it to the giant armored woman. Here, takes these to the lab and you can get out of that armor now. Thanks. Ms. Smith watched her leave and returned to the table. Now then, I have a few questions for you. I'm ready for anything. Naruto declared despite the hunted look in his eyes. Well then, first of all I need your names, age and gender. Well, this is Princess Rabbit Hag, she is ridiculously old and possibly female, and I am Naruto, said as he started to introduce them. This is Ashura's inheritor. Kaguya interrupted him. Possibly male, as I have yet to meet a female with such poor personal hygiene. His mental age I would estimate as around 5 years old. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, Dadabeo. Naruto scowled. Age, or what day is it? October 10th. Oh, then I'm 17. Naruto blinked. Male, in case you were wondering. And I am Her Royal Highness, Kaguya Otsutsuki, the rabbit goddess. As for my age and gender, it is not done to ask a noble lady for her age. Because she's so damn old. Naruto added helpfully. So that's Naruto and Kaguya, right? She looked at Naruto. As in the blonde chef. Huh? Naruto looked confused. What a stupid name, Kaguya snorted. Wait. You didn't know my name? Naruto looked at Kaguya, who merely shrugged. I am a noble, why should I need to know your name? She looked at her fingernails on her one hand. All that is required is that you know my name and address me with the respect I am due from my noble birth. So where are you both from? Ms. Smith tried to cut off the argument. The elemental nations, land of fire for me. A village called Konoha, you've probably heard of it. Naruto remarked. I'm kind of a big shot there. Never heard of it, Ms. Smith smiled apologetically. Where is it on this map? She pushed a tablet across the table to Naruto. Wow, what is this? Naruto started playing with the screen. What a strange device. Kaguya also leaned forwards. The map moves when I swipe my finger across it. Ms. Smith couldn't help but smile as the two started to play with the tablet. As a noble, you should leave such devices in my control. You would only damage them with your limited intelligence. She looked at the map. But to answer your question, this map is not familiar to me. Or me, Naruto added. I would be surprised if you even recognized a map of your home village. The common class were not meant to read, merely to farm and live their lives. I don't have a clue how to farm. Then you truly are a failure. Kaguya remarked. Well then, Kuroko took the tablet back. I guess I'll put you down as Tokyo. Tokyo? That's where we are now. Never heard of it. Never. Ms. Smith blinked. Are you from some sort of lost tribe that never made contact with humanity or something? Or something, Kaguya and Naruto replied in sync. I see, she chuckled. Well, I have registered you on the system. The test results have come back. Apparently you are human, she glanced at Naruto, and you, she looked at Kaguya. Well, we've never seen anything like you. That doesn't surprise me, Kaguya smirked. Now you see the little trouble you caused this morning means you probably won't be welcome in town for a while, but I'll tell you something. I know a place you can lay low. It's an exclusive property and you are free to remodel it however you like. There will be very few people nearby so you don't have to worry about noise. In fact, this is a prime real estate opportunity I am only offering you because after talking to you, I think you are the kind of person I could entrust this place to. Well, that's kind and everything, but I'm planning to go back home, Naruto smiled. Do you know how to get back home? Not really, Naruto admitted and glanced at Kaguya, who raised an eyebrow at his questioning look. What? I have no chakra, remember? Even if I did, I can't guarantee that I could find my way home. Even if I could, what makes you think that I would take you with me? Kaguya scoffed. My winning personality? Was that a joke? I do not understand your lower class humor. Kaguya frowned. That wasn't supposed to be a joke. Naruto slumped over in his chair. Moving on, Ms. Smith tried to get the conversation back on track. Why not take me up on my offer? All I ask is that you help me out with my tasks. Tasks? Naruto narrowed his eyes, aware of the sort of tasks that would be asked of missing Nin in his home. As I'm sure you have noticed, Ms. Smith smiled softly. There are many girls like Kaguya here. Trust me, there is no one like me here. These girls, Ms. Smith continued, ignoring Kaguya's comment, all have special needs that mean they cannot be cared for by a normal human. Why would they need caring for at all? You really are from some back of the woods kind of place, aren't you? Ms. Smith chuckled. Okay, have you heard of the cultural exchange between species bill? Or the interspecies exchange bill as it is also known. The what? Naruto's blank face was mirrored by Kaguya. To summarize, a few years ago, demi-humans or liminals if you prefer, and humanity signed an agreement to live alongside each other. Ms. Smith smiled. The interspecies exchange bill is basically an agreement to help humans and other races grow used to each other. In essence, a handler is assigned a liminal and is responsible for their behavior to help them get used to everyday life. Okay? So basically all I'm asking is if you help someone adjust to a human presence. Ms. Smith smiled. But I'm not that well informed on this place, Naruto pointed out. True, but you are human, Ms. Smith pointed out. That is all that the bill requires of a handler. Okay. Naruto accepted this. I am a coordinator so I will be there to support you and any liminal guests you receive. Ms. Smith, don't you think that's a good deal? You get a free house and will receive an allowance to help you live, and I don't tell the police where the two individuals who caused a massive pile-up in the middle of a busy intersection are. So blackmail then? Kaguya frowned. Blackmail is such an ugly term. Ms. Smith smiled over her glasses. I am just giving you a chance to help people in need. Why me? Don't you have other handlers? These girls are special amongst the liminals. They are too dangerous in the eyes of the ambassadors, but after interviewing them, I can tell they are good people who dream of being more integrated into society. That's why I need a special human. You are the last chance for these girls. You aren't going to let them down, are you? You have a dream, right? How would you feel if someone selfishly denied you the chance to achieve your dream? My dream. How would I feel if I was denied the chance to become Hokage? Hell, if I can't get back I won't be able to do it at all, will I? He felt hollow just thinking about it. No, I will become Hokage. I'll find a way back. But while I'm here I might as well help people out, right? Wow. What? This woman is dangerous. Within a matter of minutes, she has already got your weakness identified. I foresee more of this in the future. Kurama chuckled. Well, it should be interesting if nothing else. I guess I can help you out, Naruto remarked. But only until I find my way back home. Cool. Kaguya shook her head. Being so easily manipulated. Being a bleeding heart will only get you killed. No wonder you opposed my peace. You are far too small-minded to understand the bigger picture beyond what's right in front of you. Excellent. Ms. Smith clapped her hands happily. I'll have your transport arranged, and since I'm guessing you don't have a cell phone, I'll throw one of those in free of charge. Thanks. Now shoo. Ms. Smith sipped her coffee. I have people to call. Some time later, she did say an exclusive property, right? Naruto blinked as he stood before his new house. Shortly after their meeting, Naruto and Kaguya had been put into a car and driven for what seemed like an eternity to the blonde ninja. Finally, the car pulled to a halt near a giant lake and the two-dimensionally displaced travelers got out of the car, which drove away before they could ask any questions. I am not sleeping in that. Kaguya scowled. As a noble I will settle for only the finest of residences. Naruto looked at the ruined farmhouse with a sigh. It was in need of some severe restoration work, though it was practically a mansion in size, if not in appearance. A farm. A run-down farm, Kaguya corrected as she looked at the wheat-infested fields and various barns in disrepair. One not managed in some time, I would imagine. You know about farming? No, Kaguya looked insulted. That is the work of the common people. I have visited many a farm in my duties as a princess. She smiled. My people would always look so happy to see me. Huh, Naruto smiled softly at the fond look on Kaguya's face. Can I ask you something? If you must. Why did you agree to come with me? Pardon? Kaguya raised an eyebrow. Well, Ms. Smith gave you the choice of entering the program or simply going with me. As much as it pains me to admit, without my powers I am less useful than I would like to be. Kaguya frowned. Despite this you chose not to finish your job. When you speak it is not of war and hatred but peace, even if it is a misguided one. There may yet be hope for you. Thanks. Naruto chuckled. Indeed, Kaguya noted, you should be grateful that I, Kaguya, have decided to grace you with my presence. I am sure as your tenure as my servant you will develop some class and might even be able to pass for a very minor noble when I am finished with you. Servant? Naruto frowned. But of course, Kaguya smirked. After all you are responsible for my current state are you not? Well, and I am helpless, as you are so keen to point out. That is true but so it seems to me the only decent thing for you to do is assist me in my daily routine. I suppose the little things might. So go on servant, Kaguya declared. Build me a house worthy of my presence. For someone who has lost all of their power, you are sure bossy, Naruto frowned as he summoned a small army of clones. Fortunately I had plenty of experience repairing buildings on my training trip with Iro Sennin. He smirked before frowning softly. To think all I did was yell at him for wasting my time and not training me. What I'd do for just one more day. He closed his eyes. What do you think you are doing? Kaguya barked. You wasteful servant. Eh? Naruto frowned. You asked me to fix the building. I didn't tell you to waste my chakra. Your chakra? I am the mother of all chakra, Kaguya put her arm on her hip. Is that so? Naruto grinned as summoned his golden cloak, creating several crude hands that started to make obscene gestures at her. Stop that. Kaguya ordered as Naruto cackled before setting to work repairing the house. Idiotic servant, she grumbled as she sat down on the grass, watching Naruto and his clones swarm the building with a single-minded purpose that was almost impressive and would have earned him an iota of respect from Kaguya. At least it would have if not for the fact that half of the house suddenly caved in no less than 10 minutes into his work, killing off a fair few clones, which Naruto replaced. Wasting my chakra. Kaguya mumbled under her breath. Still she couldn't say that he wasn't working hard. A small group of clones broke free and started to cut down a few trees from the nearby forest, making sure to plant seeds in place of the cut-down tree before setting to work cutting it into timber by using wind chakra, another waste of her chakra. Servant. Kaguya clicked her fingers and the original Naruto appeared in a flash of yellow. What? Naruto crossed his arms, his forehead sweaty. I require entertainment. That's your problem. Naruto turned to go back to the house. What a worthless servant you are, Kaguya sighed. Tell me, why did you not tell Lady Sunglasses that you had no interest in looking after me? Why? Naruto chuckled. Well, you're probably my only way back. I see, Kaguya nodded. As painful as it is to admit, we both require each other. For the time being, Naruto nodded. Very well then. Kaguya nodded. I declare a truce, my lucky servant. My name's Naruto. And a stupid name it is, Kaguya remarked. I shall address you as servant. It is far more dignified than some sort of ramen ingredient. And I guess I'll call you Kaguya. You shall address me as Lady Kaguya, the rabbit goddess and princess of the I believe they are now called the elemental nations. How about just Princess Kaguya or rabbit goddess? The rabbit goddess accepts this. Kaguya nodded. Here, Naruto reached out to her. What are you doing? The help should never touch their masters, you worthless servant. A peace offering. The old sage told me how to use my chakra to heal, not like medical chakra, but something older and more potent. It's how I saved mega bushy brows, so I figured it might heal your arm, you know. If this is a trap, Kaguya reached out and accepted his hand, gasping as she felt warmth surge through her body. Naruto frowned as he watched Kaguya's horn regenerate, yet there were no signs of the spare limb regenerating. He tried to force more of his chakra into her, hoping the regenerative properties would take effect shortly. I feel so warm. Kaguya felt the heat wash over her. It feels like it is invading me very core. I feel so strange. Wait a minute. Kaguya reacted angrily to the new sensations. Is he trying to arouse me? Learn your place, you perverted servant. She roared before headbutting Naruto in the face. What the hell? Naruto staggered backwards. I was trying to heal you. Sure as hell didn't feel like it. Kaguya took a deep breath to calm herself down. I see you were able to repair my horn. I think all I need is more to channel more chakra to you and I can get your arm too. No. Kaguya shook her head furiously. Never again. But your arm, I would rather I go through life with one arm rather than have you violate my sacred body. Violate your what are you talking about? When you were forcing your chakra on me. Kaguya blushed slightly. A noble lady should not speak of such things. I don't get it. Naruto frowned as Kaguya refused to say any more. Well, I guess you got your horns repaired if nothing else. Do not expect thanks. Kaguya remarked. Such a duty is expected of my servant and you were far too wasteful with the chakra you were using. Still she glanced at Naruto. All in all I suppose you performed adequately. Thanks, Naruto smiled. For a servant with absolutely no redeeming qualities or skills anyway. Thanks, Naruto repeated in a deadpan. You're welcome, servant. Kaguya gestured with her hand. Now return to your duties. Yeah, Naruto grumbled. For what it's worth, all the stonework seems in pretty good shape. There's also a lot of electronics in there that seem alright, but I wouldn't use them until someone else has had a look at them. There are bits that I haven't seen before and I have no idea what they do. He frowned. All the wooden parts are rotten, so I'm just replacing them. And my room? I can't say it is fit for a princess, but I'll try my best to make it livable. I suppose that is all I can expect from you. Yeah, Naruto sighed as he returned to his work. Kaguya frowned as she watched Naruto get back to work. She didn't understand him one bit. Back before she was a goddess, everyone was polite to her and bowed their heads in her presence. After she became a goddess, everyone worshipped her as the herald of peace. She was a peaceful goddess, protecting her people from the horrors of war. At least that was how it started out, but she soon realized that humans would always fight amongst each other. They were like children, and she had to be stern to keep them safe, but this overbearing attitude of hers only bred resentment and fear. Her own sons used the chakra she had given them against her, and when she had tried to reclaim her chakra so that they couldn't hurt anyone, they had sealed her away. Her children betrayed her, and for what? Thousands of years of war and suffering. Millions dying in pointless little wars that would never have even happened if not for those foolish children of hers. She was shaken out of her brooding by something soft nuzzling against her leg. She looked to see a small white bunny rabbit. Shoo, Kaguya gestured with her hand and the bunny hopped away, only to return with two more bunnies, who all started to rub against the seated goddess and settle down. I said shoo. She repeated, and once again the bunnies fled. This world is full of strange creatures, she mumbled before returning her attention to Naruto, who was apparently arguing with his clones. And there is the strangest of them all. She remarked before she got the feeling she was being watched. Turning around, she saw 12 bunnies at a respectful distance behind her, all lined up. Do as you will, she sighed, and the bunnies started to play around her, with a couple falling to sleep, leaning against her. How strange, she smiled slightly as she stroked the soft fur of the rabbits. Rabbit goddess indeed, Naruto chuckled as he approached, the rabbits quickly scattering as he got near. Unlike someone I could mention, they respect royalty. She stood up. The house is finished, mostly. Naruto escorted Kaguya to the large house. What was once a rusted old farmhouse was now looking like a nice country retreat. Not quite up to Kaguya's high standards as a former goddess princess, but it would do for now. She made a mental note to get Naruto to learn how to build better buildings. If she was going to be stranded in this dimension, she might as well get comfortable here. I must admit, this is actually respectable work. I was right to make you my servant. Kaguya declared as they entered the house. As you can see, it is a little barebones right now. The lights don't all work, but I'm not an electrician, so I'm not touching them. Naruto remarked. Lights? Yeah, Naruto walked over to a switch and flicked it, turning the light on. Stop wasting chakra, you insufferable servant. It isn't chakra, it's electricity, Naruto pointed out. Didn't you have electricity way back when, before you were sealed the first time? It is not my duty to understand how things work, that is your duty, Kaguya tried to cover for herself. Right, Naruto smirked. Anyway, we have a bathroom. Naruto walked over to a room. Complete with a shower and a large bathtub. This is a bath. Yes. But it is so small. Small? Naruto glanced at the room. This is bigger than my old apartment. But where are the fountains? My old bath was practically a swimming pool with fountains and a hot waterfall. It was so cozy and warm. Well, we don't have an indoor bath like that. He gestured to the bathtub. Heck, I don't even know if we have hot water. The boiler wouldn't turn on, so I guess I need to get in touch with Ms. Smith somehow, but I couldn't find any messenger pigeons to get in contact with her. Naruto paused, seeing Kaguya's blank expression. The boiler is what you use to heat water using electricity. I believe my bath was powered by a fire underneath a giant metal container with water in it, Kaguya remarked. I could use chakra to heat up a bath should you want one. Naruto offered. It would be quicker than lighting a fire. I see, Kaguya frowned. I shall consider it. And here is your room. Naruto opened it to reveal several clones still tidying it up. Not much, but I guess you will find a way to decorate it. You've got the biggest bed in the place and the softest mattress. This shall do for the time being. Kaguya sat down on her bed. You are dismissed. Begging servant. I am tired. Oh right, Naruto jerked his head and the clones filed out. Ungrateful bunny hag, one of them muttered, but Kaguya pretended not to hear it. Then I guess I'll see you in the morning. I shall expect my breakfast fully prepared. Kaguya stated. How will I do that? I don't know what you like and we have next to no food here. That is a servant's concern. Naruto opened his mouth to argue before just sighing and leaving. Once she was sure that Naruto had gone, she covered herself in the blankets and curled up, her lone arm wrapped around her knees. Less than a day ago, she was an all-powerful goddess. Now she was weak, alone and in an unfamiliar environment. She had no allies, only an enemy that didn't want to kill her, and soon she would be surrounded by monsters from what the sunglasses-wearing woman had said. As she hugged her knees tighter, Kaguya realized for the first time as long as she could remember, she was afraid. She paused as she felt something nudging her hand and glanced to see a pure white bunny looking up at her. She laughed weakly. What a strange place this is. She laid in the bed, which was admittedly comfortable, and tried to fall to sleep, the small rabbit snuggling against her and falling to sleep quickly, but for Kaguya, sleep did not come easily. Middle of the night, Kaguya's eyes suddenly shot open. She remembered fighting. That's right, she was about to complete her plan and finally save her world when she was thwarted. She sat up, dislodging several bunnies that had crept into her room, who then proceeded to gather around her, as if waiting for her to do something. I shall have to inform that useless servant of mine that he did a poor job of securing my room. Kaguya rubbed the sleep from her eyes before leaving the bed and opening her curtains. The moon was shining in through the window, the pale light reflecting off of her equally pale skin, giving her a look of almost ethereal beauty. Unfortunately for Kaguya's bruised ego, no one was here to witness her hauntingly beautiful appearance except the bunnies, and they seemed to have little to no awareness of her mood, nor the ability to compliment her even if they could. In fact, all they had done was climb into the slightly crevice where she had been sleeping and fall to sleep themselves. Kaguya briefly contemplated kicking them out of her bed, but decided there was no real point. Just because she was having difficulty sleeping didn't mean that she had to cause misery to the bunny rabbits. She briefly thought about waking up her servant, but decided that he had earned his sleep. As she was staring out of her window, she noticed some movement in one of the barns. She subconsciously went to use her Byakugan before realizing that without her chakra, there was little she could actually do. Once again she felt powerless. She had no idea what was going on in that barn. What if it was one of the local monster girls that Sunglasses had been talking about? Here she was with one arm and no powers. Still, they were in a barn that was some distance away. It could wait until the morning, Kaguya decided before climbing back into her bed. The very instant she shut her eyes she heard a creaking noise downstairs and that sent a shiver through her entire body. Even the rabbits seemed to be huddling together in fright. She lay perfectly still as the sound of footsteps grew louder, as if someone was walking towards her room. She held her breath as the footsteps stopped outside her room before resuming their journey back downstairs. What was once fear gave way to anger. She was a former goddess, and here she was cowering like some sort of a bunny rabbit. She thought, venomously glaring at the fluffy balls that were trying to hide themselves inside her kimono. Her anger gave her strength and she crept over to the door, slowly pushing it open. Credit where it is due, this door opened rather quietly. Kaguya thought to herself. Maybe the servant isn't completely talentless. She softly walked amongst the fresh wooden floors, delicately stepping towards the kitchen area where she saw a shadowy figure rooting through the drawers. Grabbing a wooden rolling pin from the side, she crept towards the mysterious figure and swung with all her strength. The figure span around and grabbed her arm with little effort. Oh no, Kaguya realized she was in trouble until she felt a ruffling in her kimono sleeve and a small bunny dived at the assailant, taking him by surprise and biting him on the nose. Son of a bitch. A familiar voice cried out. Servant. Kaguya felt an overwhelming sense of relief, followed by a warm sensation as the bunny leapt back into her sleeve. Still holding a grudge, eh? Naruto mumbled as he rubbed his nose. What are you doing up at this time? Kaguya rallied. I thought you were a burglar. Burglar? Here to steal what exactly? Naruto summoned his golden cloak, illuminating the entire room. Well, Kaguya faltered. That's not the issue. Stop wasting my chakra. You said there were electric lights here, correct? The bulbs don't work and I couldn't find any spare. Naruto admitted sheepishly. As for why I am up right now, I was seeing what I could make for breakfast. I couldn't sleep, he massaged his neck. The sofa isn't very comfortable. Sofa? Well, you've got the only bed and I haven't even started on fixing my room. What? Kaguya blinked. Well, you wanted to go to sleep so I figured I'd work on my room tomorrow. Naruto replied. Oh, Kaguya felt the tiniest smidgen of respect for Naruto. Putting your master first. Maybe you do have some talent as a servant after all. Thanks. Naruto wasn't sure how to take it, but given Kaguya's abrasive attitude thus far, he chose to take it as a compliment. So what will be for breakfast? Kaguya sat down at a counter before she noticed Naruto's questioning look. I can't sleep. You couldn't sleep either? Naruto chuckled. This place will take some getting used to, that's for sure. It's a lot bigger than my old place. Doesn't feel like a home either. But then again, it's only until we find a way back. When I was royalty, I always had someone to look after me, to ensure my bed was perfect and that nothing would interrupt my sleep. When I became a goddess I didn't need to sleep. Now I find myself needing it again, but I do not feel safe here. I'm sure you will eventually, Naruto smiled. It's just a matter of getting used to it. As you say, Kaguya sighed deeply. So she steered the conversation back to the original topic, what is there to eat? Well, Naruto put a small bag on the counter. Fortunately, Ms. Smith left us some things. He pulled out an old flip phone. Not sure what this is. He remarked as he put it on the desk. Instant ramen. Naruto's face lit up as he pulled out several containers. Well, that's me sorted. What else do we have? He pulled out a bag and let out a snort of laughter. What is it? Kaguya narrowed her eyes. For you, Naruto grinned as he handed her several carrots. I feel Sunglasses and I are going to have some words, Kaguya remarked before taking one of the carrots and taking an angry bite of it. What, you are actually going to eat that? Better this than whatever that instant ramen stuff is. Kaguya narrowed her eyes. It doesn't look appetizing. That's just the container, Naruto smirked. The ramen is inside. I knew that. Kaguya lied. Naruto chuckled. What were you doing in the nearest barn then? What? I saw something in there. Kaguya took another angry bite of the carrot. I haven't left this house. Naruto remarked. Oh, Kaguya felt nervous. Don't you think you should investigate? Me? Well, what am I going to do? Kaguya remarked. If I had my powers I would deal with it myself, but someone just happened to have sealed those away. Oh right, sorry. Naruto paused. Well, not sorry for sealing your powers. You deserved that. He started to leave before he got an idea and grinned evilly. So I'll leave you here then. All alone. Powerless. I mean, I'm sure whatever was in the barn is still in there. Unless I attracted them to this building with my chakra, but I'm sure that didn't happen. He dispelled his cloak and walked out of the kitchen. Kaguya sat there, angrily staring at the remaining half of a carrot, a bunny perched on her arm and looking at her, twitching its nose. I know he just said that to scare me into going with him. Kaguya told the bunny. It isn't going to work. I am perfectly safe here, right? The bunny jumped from her hand. I mean, why would anyone want to break in here? It isn't as if anyone who might have a grudge against me is in this dimension as well, right? I mean, Indra's inheritor isn't here, right? He was kicked away from the portal by the servant, right? There was a loud creak and the rabbit goddess raced out of the house towards Naruto, leaving behind the carrot and the rabbit, who simply hopped over to the vegetable and started to nibble happily. Outside, Naruto frowned as he looked at the barn. He had seen movement, but with the only source of light currently hidden behind some clouds, he wasn't able to see what was in there. As he got closer, he could hear a strange noise, several light thuds, as if something with more than 4 legs was running and jumping around. He might even say something was scurrying around. What is it? Kaguya asked directly in Naruto's ear, nearly giving him a heart attack. Don't know, Naruto swallowed. But be quiet, please. I want to catch them unawares. Kaguya scowled at him for basically telling her to shut up, but otherwise followed his request. The two creeped up to the barn's entrance before noting the scurrying had stopped. Naruto squinted into the darkness. Anything? Naruto furiously mimed being quiet before creeping inside the hut and activating his golden aura to reveal an empty barn. There's nothing here, Kaguya remarked. Well, maybe somebody scared it off by talking, Naruto replied irritably as he looked up at the ceiling for any exits it might have used, although the roof was more hole than ceiling, which provided plenty of possible escape routes. Well, maybe it was someone lighting up like a flare that scared them off. Kaguya retorted angrily. Using my chakra as some sort of cheap light source. Well, maybe it is right behind you. Naruto finished quietly as he spun around to yell at Kaguya. Is it? Yes. As if on the world's slowest turntable, Kaguya turned around. Illuminated by Naruto's golden glow, a woman stood behind her. She had shoulder-length blonde hair and a rather impressive bust. She was wearing a plain white shirt that covered her arms and a black dress that started just below her waist that covered far more legs than what Kaguya was expecting to see. Below her waist she was a spider with long thin brown limbs with darker brown stripes. Her hands were of a similar color and the fingers looked vaguely claw-like. 6 red glittering eyes seemed to focus on her. The three stood in silence for some time, Naruto's shock rapidly fading, whilst Kaguya remained still, hoping the strange woman was not aggressive. So, Naruto rubbed the back of his head. Are you, or can you speak? Yes. The new arrival bowed her head slightly. Despite her appearance, her voice sounded just like a normal woman, and Naruto felt himself calm down at the ability to converse with her. Why didn't you? Naruto asked. Species Cultural Exchange Bill, Article 31A, Subsection 4. All diplomatic representatives are to follow the orders of their handlers and any relevant government officials, unless said order contradicts a principal law. She quoted. I was requested by Agent Smith to stay put until my representative was sent to meet me at this location. Agent Wait Sunglasses sent you here. Kaguya found her voice. Sunglasses? The spider girl frowned. Article 21D, Subsection 1. All human agents and handlers should be treated with the respect that any diplomatic representative deserves. I care little for your treaties, Kaguya scowled. I am of noble blood. Don't mind her, she's just grumpy because she didn't get much sleep. Naruto laughed weakly and stepped between the two girls. So did Ms. Smith tell you who your representative is? Indeed, the spider produced some paperwork and handed it to Naruto, who decided it best not to question where she produced it from. Let me see here. Naruto scowled. It seems to be written in a language I understand, at least in parts. I have no idea what I am looking at. Wait, that's my name. Oh, this is me. Naruto repeated aloud. I am Naruto Uzumaki. Pleased to meet you. I thank you for giving me this chance. The spider girl shook his hand. Her hands felt weird to Naruto, but not in a bad way, just in a different way. Chance? Naruto blinked. Indeed. I was initially rejected for the species exchange program. Agent Smith worked very hard to change that. Why were you rejected initially? If it's not a personal question. Article 21E, subsection 3. A diplomatic representative is required to answer all questions asked by a handler or agent, unless answering could infringe on any of the principal laws as detailed in Article 1. If you wish for me to answer, I am obligated to do so. If you don't want to, you don't have to, Naruto chuckled. It is nothing personal, the spider woman shook her head. It was decided that my hunting instincts would make living in a city environment difficult. Hunting instincts? Kaguya frowned. Indeed, I am a long-legged type arachnid, and we are carnivorous with a very strong innate hunting instinct. It is believed that in a city environment my instincts may lead to me hunting humans. Which would be in violation of Article 1 of Principle Law 3, a diplomatic representative should pose no danger to the public before being allowed on the program. You sure know a lot of laws, Naruto laughed weakly. I need to. Oh, where are my manners? Naruto blinked. I just realized I never asked your name. The spider woman took a deep sigh. Chichi. My name is Chichi. What a vulgar name, Kaguya remarked bluntly. Eh? Naruto blinked clueless. Isn't that a way of saying dad or something? It can also mean breasts, Chichi admitted. I assure you I have heard every joke imaginable about it. Oh, fair enough, Naruto shrugged. Nice to meet you, Chichi. I'm Naruto. Such a vulgar woman, speaking freely of such topics, Kaguya snorted. Be grateful that I, Kaguya Otsutsuki, Empress of the Moon and the Rabbit Goddess, tolerate your presence. Pardon? Chichi blinked. You'll get used to her. Naruto laughed weakly. So he looked at Kaguya, then back to Chichi. What exactly do I have to do? Pardon? What is my job as your handler? Chichi blinked. Do you not know? Not really, Naruto rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. But that is in contrast with Article 1 as subsection 2. All handlers must be declared competent before being assigned to the program. Chichi frowned. Hey, I'm plenty competent. Naruto countered. I was given this job for a reason. Even so, Chichi seemed unimpressed. I have been waiting here for several hours. I believe that you may not be qualified for this role. I apologize if this offends you, which would be in violation of Article. Yeah, I get it, Naruto cut her off. You like your rules. Tell you what. Why don't you come inside and sleep it over? I'll figure out a way to get a hold of Ms. Smith in the morning. Very well. Chichi bowed her head. As you are currently my handler, it is my obligation to comply with any requests you make, within reason. Where will she sleep? Kaguya frowned. Oh, I had a few clones hanging back at the house who were creating a few spare bedrooms anyway. Naruto grinned at her. What are you smirking at? Nothing, Naruto chuckled. One of my clones just dispelled. Apparently you were talking to a bunny, but when he stepped into the room the floorboard creaked and you were out of there. It was almost as if you knew the Horatian technique. I know not of what you speak, Kaguya narrowed her eyes. But I'm sure this technique is as unimpressive as anything else you have done, such as those crude chakra hands you make. Crude. Naruto crossed his arms as they walked back to the house, Chichi following up the rear. They have opposable thumbs and everything. My chakra limb was completely indistinguishable from a real limb. Kaguya smirked patronizingly. But I'm sure for one of your breeding, that was a good attempt. She patted him on the head. Naruto glared at her back. It appears that your other charge doesn't respect you, Chichi noted. About half a day ago we were trying to kill each other. Naruto shrugged. I don't know where to start with how many rules that breaks. Oh, don't worry. I'm 25% sure she's forgiven me. I mean, I only cost her arm, her powers, and possibly stranded her in a foreign world. Naruto smiled at Chichi, who wasn't entirely what to say back. Why do you put up with her? Chichi asked. I mean, Article 21 says. Let me tell you about some rules I live by. Naruto stopped to look at her. I call them my nindo or my ninja way. I will never give up. So long as I can breathe I can fight. So long as one person needs me I will never give up on them. Even if they have gone a little of the rails, he mumbled the last bit, thinking of Sasuke. So even though she doesn't respect you, you won't give up on her? Oh, Kaguya. Naruto laughed weakly. Well, I guess I kind of feel somewhat responsible for her current predicament. Plus, I don't think she is genuinely a bad person. She's just had a bad day. Chichi wasn't so sure but chose not to comment. In the morning she would see Agent Smith and would voice her concerns. She was sure that Agent Smith would be understanding. The next morning, rejected, Ms. Smith smiled as she nursed a freshly brewed coffee. She had shown up early with some supplies for the farmhouse, as well as some experts to repair the bits that Naruto didn't know how to. He had saved her an impressive amount of labor, which was always a good thing as she was expecting the house to be in a pretty bad state when she arrived. She was currently enjoying a full breakfast as prepared by Naruto while sipping a coffee, also freshly brewed by Naruto. Chichi stood before her looking like a deer caught in the headlights. But Chichi took a deep breath. The Interspecies Exchange Bill, Article 1 subsection 2 clearly states all handlers must be declared competent before being assigned to the program. Aren't you forgetting a little bit at the end? Smith smiled. Well, Chichi frowned. It says competency is decided by the local cultural exchange coordinator. And who am I? Ms. Smith finished her coffee. Refill please. Seriously? When did I become everyone's servant? Naruto grumbled as he took her cup and refilled it. Yesterday when you decided to prevent the world achieving peace and dragged me kicking and screaming into this world. Kaguya paused in her meal to toss a carrot slice from her salad to a sad-looking bunny. The local cultural exchange coordinator. Chichi frowned. Listen, Smith paused to take her cup back from Naruto. I know he might not look like much, sound like much or even smell like much. I am spitting in your next coffee. Naruto warned. Do not disgrace my name by being such an inferior servant. Kaguya warned. But, Smith continued. He has potential. That's why I decided to send you to him. It's just a shame there aren't more like him. There are so many girls who need a handler like Naruto-kun here. Flattery won't get you anywhere, Naruto grumbled. So why are you here? Oh, just seeing how things are going. And eating the food you had brought for us. Naruto deadpanned. Well, if someone offers me food it would be rude not to accept. Ms. Smith laughed. On that note she waved the empty cup at him. Seriously? Naruto summoned a Kage Bunshin. Stop wasting my chakra. Ms. Smith blinked as she saw the Kage Bunshin take her cup and fill it up. Say those are solid clones, right? Yeah, Naruto nodded. How many can you make? Thousands? Naruto shrugged. Ms. Smith started chuckling darkly. I have a feeling that you shouldn't have told her that. Kaguya sighed. I never thought I would say this, but I agree with the bunny. She already knows your weaknesses and now you are telling her your strengths. I'm sure you're over-exaggerating. Naruto glanced at Ms. Smith. At least I really hope you are. Later that day, Hiroko Smith was practically dancing as she entered her office. Even the subpar coffee she had gotten from the office couldn't ruin her mood. As she approached her desk, the usual intimidating pile of representatives in need of a new host stood waiting, but she had a secret weapon now. Flicking through the files, she selected the most dangerous and dropped them all into box and rummaging through her desk, pulled out a black marker and scribbled Naruto on front of it before putting the box to one side. Well, that was a productive day's work. She sighed happily. I think it's almost dinner time, maybe I should check in with Naruto to see if Chichi is still being troublesome. She smiled as she left her desk. And if they happen to be having their dinner and offer me a bit of the meal, well it would be rude to turn it down, now wouldn't it? And that's the end of the first chapter. Chapter 2. When the sun rose, it was to a peaceful scene. There was a gentle breeze that ruffled Naruto's hair as he watched the sun rising. A tired and disgruntled Chichi stood beside him. As she took in Naruto's calm smile, she couldn't help but feel a little relaxed herself. Even though she was planning to explain to Ms. Smith that she couldn't possibly stay with such an inexperienced handler, she was enjoying this brief moment of quiet. You know you don't have to follow me, right? Naruto chuckled as he looked over his shoulder at her. I'm not going to run off or anything. Article 21D, subsection 2 a representative must not stray more than 100 yards, 91.4 meters, from their handler without a written letter from the coordinator, expressing that the representative is adjusted enough to cope without a human handler. Chichi stated. Naruto opened his mouth to argue, but then decided against it. If following the rules made her happy, who was he to judge? He settled for leaning on a rotten wooden fence and surveying the fruits of his labor. The house looked okay from the outside, but only the bare minimum had been done inside. In fact, only Kaguya's room was finished, although Kaguya had made it quite clear that it wasn't up to her noble standards. Chichi had been given what was supposed to be his room, which had had the walls and floors repaired, but was still lacking furniture. He had slept in the kitchen, the only other room that kept out the cold. Whilst Chichi hadn't complained, he felt guilty at making her sleep in such a bare room and resolved to finish her room before starting on his own. Even if he wasn't going to be here long, hopefully, he could at least leave it so that Chichi would have a nice place to live in when he returned to Konoha. Right then, Naruto suddenly declared. Time to get to work. Work? Chichi asked. That's right. Naruto looked at the farm. This place isn't going to build itself. When I'm finished with it, it'll be a fully working farm with all sorts of farmy things like chickens and rice. He finished weakly. To get us some food and such, you know. Do you know anything about farming? Not a thing, Naruto proudly declared. But I have a neat little trick to learn new stuff. Oh? See, Naruto smirked as he summoned a cage bunshin. Anything these guys learn is transferred to me when they're dispelled. I see, Chichi frowned softly. May I ask something? You don't need to ask me permission to ask me a question, Naruto chuckled. Just ask me, okay? In accordance with Article 21E, I shall acknowledge your request. Chichi replied, hiding a smile at Naruto's exasperated sigh. I was wondering, are you really human? Yup, Naruto nodded proudly. But you can do such wondrous things, Chichi frowned. None of this was explained in the documents I have read about humanity. Well, Naruto saw something over Chichi's shoulder and choked back a laugh. I guess you could say I'm special. Good morning, Kaguya-chan. Did you have a nice sleep? That is Kaguya-sama to you. Kaguya scowled at Naruto, who was wearing a grin so wide it threatened to split his face in half. Is something amusing to you, servant? No, nothing. Naruto turned to survey the land. Just thinking about all the work it's going to take to get this place into shape. Such a task should be easy to someone who calls themselves my servant. I don't call myself that. Naruto deadpanned. He is our handler and as per Article 21D, he should be treated with respect. Chichi remarked before her face went strangely blank as she saw Kaguya's face. I see you are still here, Kaguya turned to face her. I could care less about the laws you preach, vulgar spider. Good morning. Chichi found herself staring over Kaguya's shoulder to avoid looking at her face. See, this one gets it. Kaguya smirked. She understands that a vulgar being such as herself does not have the divine right to gaze upon my face. As sure, Chichi mumbled. Do not laugh, whatever I do I cannot laugh, remember the exchange laws. Well, your face is a sight to behold. Naruto nodded. What are you planning? Kaguya stared at Naruto, distrust apparent in her eyes. Your words seem true, but I feel there is more behind what you say. Oh, nothing, Naruto whistled innocently. By the way, you haven't washed your face yet, have you? No, Kaguya paused. I used to have servants to do that for me, but I would rather not have your calloused hands caressing my face. My skin is soft and delicate and requires a soft touch. She glanced at Chichi's hands before scowling. It appears I shall have to bathe myself. Well, you can wash your face in the lake, Naruto nodded to the body of water. A servant does not tell their master what to do, Kaguya declared before heading to the body of water. When she sees Chichi glanced at Naruto. Haha, Naruto grinned. You insolent servant. Kaguya shrieked as she turned to glare at Naruto. The bunny face paint she was wearing looked ridiculous when combined with her angry glare. I was wrong. This is funny. Kurama's bemused voice sounded from the depths of Naruto's mindscape. Wahahaha. Naruto fell over laughing as Kaguya stormed over to him, her eyes radiating killing intent. I'm pretty sure almost every rule of the exchange program has just been violated. Chichi hung her head. Whilst it was kind of funny, I will have to report this to Agent Smith. She will see that staying here will only hurt my chances of being a police officer. Chichi glanced at Naruto, who was still rolling around laughing as Kaguya tried to wash her face. Where did you even get that paint? Oh, I found it in one of the barns, Naruto remarked as he staggered to his feet. There was loads of junk in boxes, and when my clones found the face paint we knew what we had to do. Ouch. He frowned as he saw a little bunny bite him on the shin. Geez, what's the big idea? Naruto noticed a group of at least 20 rabbits staring at him. Fine, I'll help her get it off. He was cut off by a strange ringing noise. The phone, Chichi frowned as Naruto pulled out the device. You need to flip it open and it should auto-answer. Oh, Naruto flipped the phone open. Hello. Hi there, Ms. Smith sounded tired. I forgot to go over some details, so I'll be at the property in half an hour. Tell me, have you had breakfast and your morning coffee yet? We don't have anything here to serve, breakfast or coffee. Well, fine, I'll use your allowance to buy you some food. I'll even bring over some workers to make sure your house has everything you need for your new resident. You've met Chichi, correct? Yeah, Naruto glanced at Chichi. For a second I was worried that you hadn't gotten my text. Ms. Smith chuckled. Yeah, I got that, Naruto laughed weakly. Thanks for that. Well, if you really want to thank me you can make me a meal. Ms. Smith hung up. I get the feeling this isn't going to be the last time she tries to mooch a meal off of you. Quit being such a cynic. She's helping us out by fixing up the bits of the house I can't and providing us with food. Besides, it's not as if I'm planning to stay here, is it? As soon as I find a way back home we'll be leaving. And Kaguya. To take her back would be reckless. She's powerless right now and quite a lot of people would want her dead if not captured and experimented on. Wait a minute, you're calling something reckless? You are the most reckless person I know. I'm not reckless. You dive into danger headfirst. That isn't exactly sensible. Kurama chuckled. Well, Naruto scowled as he struggled to think of a comeback. It's not recklessness if you know you can survive it. He finished weakly. That is the kind of argument only a suicidally reckless person would say. Either that or someone who was already dead. Kurama remarked dryly as Naruto made his way to the house, the rest of the journey spent in silence. It's not recklessness if you know it won't kill you. A patchwork woman proudly declared as she poked some stitches across her exposed belly. She wore the standard armor of Mon Squad, although her top was open, showing a variety of wounds that had been stitched and bandaged. Some of the bandages were tainted with a strange-looking liquid that didn't smell like blood. This was Zambina the zombie, Mon Squad's weapons expert. There was a group sigh of exasperation in the Mon Squad barracks as two of her teammates just shook their heads. But Bina-chan, Minako, the squad sniper Mon-I, frowned at her zombie teammate. "You don't heal naturally." "It was only a Bakken," Zambina grinned. "It was thrust through you like a spear." Doppel, the squad's infiltration expert, remarked as she sat, using her hair as a chair. "Clearly the target was a lot stronger than we were expecting. Bullet holes are easy to seal, but this wound was much more difficult. You were lucky that the wound could have been closed at all." Minako tried to explain her concern to the grinning zombie. "You're right." Zambina's sharp teeth gave her an almost feral look. She was a strong opponent. "You're focusing on the wrong thing," Minako mumbled under her breath. "Meh," Zambina waved her concern off. "Hey, where's Tio?" Ms. Smith requested her for a mission, prisoner transport most likely. Doppel shrugged indifferently. "I see," Zambina frowned. "Once again I get left out of the exciting stuff. What if that criminal tries to escape, huh? Tio gets to have the best parts. I didn't even get called when there was the incident with the boss." "Ah," Minako nodded softly. "With the human and the strange liminal. From what I heard the liminal had weird glowing hands." "That was apparently the human," Doppel remarked. "How do you know?" "I was there," Doppel shrugged. Did everyone except me get a piece of the action?" There really wasn't much action after the human pulled himself out of a truck and started to glow yellow and pick people up with the weird glowing hands he created. Doppel shifted until she was a perfect replica of Naruto, golden chakra form and all. "Say what?" Zambina frowned. "I could never do that when I was alive." "That sounds pretty awesome. Were they used for any attacks?" She leaned forward to look at Doppel. "Not really," Doppel returned to her usual form. "He just sort of held everyone up, then surrendered without a fight." "Oh?" Zambina seemed a little disappointed. "Well, I guess I didn't miss that much unless you're lying to me." "Why would I do that?" "To make me feel better." "Oh, there was a full-on gunfight, wasn't there?" Zambina groaned. "I'll bet Minako was firing bullets everywhere. Tio probably threw a car at someone." "I can assure you that didn't happen," Doppel shook her head. "Besides, I would have thought you would have had enough excitement fighting that exchange student that ran you through." "But she didn't throw a car at anyone," Zambina pointed out. "No one threw any cars," Doppel shook her head. "I'll bet he was a deranged psycho." Zambina's mismatched eyes sparkled. "It must have looked like some sort of horror movie when you saw all that death and destruction. You could always just read the report." I think he is strange." Minako frowned. "But not a bad person." "Oh?" Zambina blinked. "He could see me when I was in a sniping position. He looked at me straight in the eye and even pointed at me. No human should be able to see that well." "Really?" Zambina didn't sound convinced. "Well, there have been some interesting developments." Doppel smirked. "Have you not read the report?" "Why would I?" Zambina mumbled. "It's bad enough knowing I got left out of the action without hearing all about it as well. I'll bet the car crashes were epic. Arg. And I was stuck on some stupid escort duty. It was quite a pile-up, but fortunately there were no fatalities." Minako nodded. "That's probably the only reason that she was able to take the human and liminal into custody without too much fuss." "Arg, stop mentioning it." Zambina groaned. "But it was you who asked about it." Doppel shook her head. "It's interesting what you can find out if you can get a hold of Smith-san's mission reports." "How'd you get a hold of them?" Zambina asked. "Well," Doppel changed her appearance until she looked and sounded like Ms. Smith. "Humans are quite easy to fool." She returned to her usual appearance. "But it looks like the human isn't actually classified as one." "And that means?" Zambina asked. "Who knows?" Doppel smiled. "All I know is that his race was entered as other. If he wasn't entered as a human or liminal, what does that make him? Is he a handler or an exchange student?" Zambina frowned. "And if he causes trouble, can I shoot him?" "Who knows?" Doppel smirked. "I'm sure that Smith-san has a plan." Back at Naruto's house, Naruto and Kaguya glanced at each other uneasily before returning their attention their house guest. Chichi had quietly asked to be excused and had retreated to her still empty room, having not taken Ms. Smith's judgment well. If the coordinator was aware of Chichi's bad mood, she showed no signs of concern. "Not bad," she nodded approvingly. "Well, thanks," Naruto chuckled. "I'm not much a cook. The best kind of meal is a free one." Ms. Smith took another sip of coffee. "I have a feeling we just got a dangerous insight into your personality." Kaguya frowned. "May I ask why you are here?" "Why? It's my job." She smiled. "I had to get people here to make this place livable, although I did underestimate the damage. Fortunately, Naruto-kun here did a lot of the hard work that allowed the specialists to do their jobs easier." "What exactly is your job anyway?" Naruto asked as he summoned some clones to clean up the mess. I am the cultural exchange coordinator, Smith gestured at Naruto. In a nutshell, my job is to keep an eye on the handlers and any exchange students they may be housing to ensure that everything is going smoothly. But didn't you just disregard that vulgar spider's objections a few minutes ago? Kaguya frowned. Well, I could have tried to find her a new handler, Smith sighed. But it's far easier to just leave her here. Besides, she isn't in any danger here. So basically you don't want to do your job, Naruto deadpanned. She'll learn to get along with you, I'm sure. After all, isn't that part of her dream job? Dream job? Naruto blinked. Oh, she hasn't told you? Ms. Smith raised an eyebrow. Well, it isn't for me to say. She stood up and brushed the crumbs from her outfit. As much as I would love to eat free food all day, I have a lot of work to do today. Doing what exactly? Kaguya asked. Well, for your information, I am not only your local coordinator, but the liaison for the Mon squad, Mon being short for Monster Ops. Neutralization, she added, seeing the blank look on Kaguya and Naruto's faces. Due to the rules of the exchange bill, humans and liminals can't harm another without breaking the law. There are those who would violate this law, and whilst the police can arrest humans, they cannot touch liminals. Hence the Monster Ops is a team of liminals who are able to do what the police can't. Oh, so you are kind of like a Chunin or maybe even a Jounin. A team leader kind of thing. Yes, Smith nodded. In fact, you have already met some of my team. Oh, that armored giant. Naruto grinned, looking at Kaguya. That uncultured oaf dared to manhandle me. The rabbit goddess angrily bit into a carrot with an audible crunch. I'll bet he is some uncouth barbarian who doesn't understand the first thing about being a lady. You'd be surprised. Smith thought to herself. I'm guessing that one-eyed girl was one as well. Naruto chuckled at Kaguya's antics before returning his attention to Smith. Indeed. She was a Mono-eye. Smith looked thoughtful. I suppose I should make sure you are familiar with the different species. I'll send some books later, she finished dismissively. I'm starting to think Chichi should be more worried about you not being fit for your job than me as a handler. Naruto shook his head. I'll have you know I am extremely busy with many important things. Smith shook her head. Those things are probably finding other ways to avoid doing your job, Naruto grumbled. Says you, one of the cage bunch and cleaning the kitchen retorted. Those clones, they are copies of you, correct? Kaguya glanced at the muttering clone. Yeah? Then if your clones don't like you, what does that say about you? Kaguya smirked. I'm leaving before I see something that might make me have to perform a suitability test. Ms. Smith grabbed another slice of toast and took a bite. And then I would have so much more work to do if you failed it, and at this short notice too. She left, but not before draining her coffee and grabbing the last slice of toast. Apparently she too is lacking manners, Kaguya snorted. Sunglasses must be almost as common as you, servant. You're still sore about the face paint, aren't you? Naruto dodged a bunny missile. And so are your minions apparently. To touch the face of a noble, Kaguya huffed, one should know their place. You are fortunate that I don't have my powers. Such a crime would deserve the harshest punishment. Well, you try and think of one. I'm going to check on Chichi. Naruto glanced at Kaguya, who continued eating her salad slowly. Such vulgarity. She scoffed. It's her name, Naruto called out. It's not like I'm going around calling her tits or anything. As such language. Kaguya looked away from Naruto. Do you not know how to speak in the presence of a lady? Naruto frowned. Come to think of it, Sakura-chan did always hit me. I guess I don't know. Well, Kaguya smirked. You are fortunate you have such a forgiving and generous master who shall teach you the error of your ways. I'm going to check on Chichi. Naruto left. If you really want to, anything my clones learn is transferred to me. I see, Kaguya turned to the clone. I wonder if etiquette can truly be hammered into that tiny brain of yours. I believe a short 2-hour lecture should be a good start. You traitor. The clone yelled after the fleeing Naruto. Your sacrifice will not be forgotten. Naruto bowed his head as he headed towards Chichi's room. You'll want to be careful. Kaguya may be the only way home. Kurama warned Naruto. Try not to upset her too much. I know. Naruto sighed. If she never regains her chakra, I might have to rely on her to teach me how she opens portals. That means putting up with her for a bit longer. Who knows? Maybe she'll lighten up. In her defense though, she was my enemy less than 24 hours ago. In her defense. She was trying to end the world near enough. How can you defend her? Oh, who am I kidding? This is you we're talking about. Everyone who you beat up seems to become a good person. Although somehow I don't see it happening anytime soon with her. She's just scared. Naruto paused outside Chichi's door. Come to think of it. Maybe that's the case with Chichi too. She has been sent away from her family to live with a complete stranger. Kurama shook his head. I'm sure you'll make her feel right at home. You're that kind of person. Ah, thanks. Naruto chuckled before knocking on the door. Chichi. Enter. Naruto pushed open the room. Wow, those people Ms. Smith got in really did a number on this place. Her room had all the furnishings that you would expect of a hotel room, including a decent-sized TV on one of the walls. He'd never seen one that was flat like that one, though. The only thing that stood out was there was a hammock instead of bed, on which Chichi was currently laying. The only signs of personalization were a set of official-looking books neatly stacked on a desk and several outfits hanging in the closet, each one neatly hung and ironed. I apologize for leaving, but I was emotionally distraught by Agent Smith's decision. I thought that you would be a hindrance to my future career prospects. What do you want to do? Naruto asked as he walked over to the desk. These are all books on laws and procedures. I want to be a police officer. Chichi smiled softly. Police officer? Naruto frowned slightly. Is that like the Uchiha police of this area or something? Indeed. Chichi nodded. So that means you'd need to deal with all sorts of unruly sorts, right? That is. Chichi's eyes widened. Oh, I get it now. Agent Smith must have put me here because an officer must be calm and collected at all times. Sometimes we have to deal with members of the public who could be infuriating and unreasonable, so in a way this too is preparing me for my job. Infuriating and unreasonable. Naruto's shoulders slumped. Ah. I apologize. Chichi skillfully climbed out of the hammock. Article 21D, subsection 1 states that human handlers must be treated with respect. I cannot apologize enough for my behavior. No, that's alright. Naruto chuckled. If you don't mind me asking, why do you want to be a police officer? Article, I don't want you to answer me because the law demands it. Naruto interrupted her. I only want you to tell me if you want to tell me. Very well, Chichi bowed her head. I am from a small village not too far away. When the treaty was signed 2 years ago, not all humans took it well. Some liminals are less acceptable to humanity. Whilst those who have milder traits like those of cats and dogs are more widely accepted, those with less appealing traits are usually shunned and feared, like we are monsters. Shunned and feared, Naruto frowned softly, recalling his own past, remembering the cold looks, the hurtful words. That's never pleasant. Indeed, Chichi nodded. I remember there were some humans who were aggressive to us. They formed a sort of anti-liminal group. Usually it was just threats and graffiti, but one day she scowled. They set fire to one of my neighbors' houses at night when they were sleeping. Did they get out alright? Naruto asked, concern evident in his voice. Yes, thanks to one person, a human. She smiled softly. Whilst all the other humans were stood back watching, not sure what to do, he raced forwards without any fear and went straight into the burning building to help them escape. When he came out I asked him, why did he not fear us? Why would he risk his life for us? His answer. Chichi looked at Naruto, because I am a police officer and we help people, regardless of who they are. Human and liminal alike were calling him a hero, and that's when I realized something. If I became a police officer, I could show humans that were not to be feared and at the same time inspire other liminals to pursue their own dreams. With my hunting instincts I believe I would make a good police officer and I was physically fit, so she gestured to the books. I got in touch with the exchange program and Agent Smith provided me with the books and promised she would find me a suitable handler even after my application was initially blocked. I see, Naruto nodded. Did they catch the people who lit the fire? No, Chichi shook her head. But I think when they saw that police officer, they must have felt shame. Their actions were based on fear and ignorance. That's yet another reason why I have to be a police officer. So long as our people are considered mysterious and strange, fear will be prevalent throughout the communities that we live in. That's why I have to prove them wrong, to show them I am not some monster. I am me. Naruto stared into the distance. And one day I will be Hokage. Pardon? Chichi glanced at him. Naruto rubbed the back of his head. You might not believe it, but we're kind of similar. We both know the stigma of being hated for something you have no control over. Alright. Naruto nodded. I've decided. Decided what? I'm going to help you. Naruto pointed at Chichi. When I'm finished you'll be the best damn police officer ever. How? Naruto deflated. Well, I haven't thought that far ahead, he admitted. I mean, I might not be the best at books and stuff, but when it comes to practical work, I'm pretty good. I've got it. I'll make training course that only I can make for you. Really? Yeah, Naruto nodded. You said your request was originally declined, right? Because of that law saying you can't be a risk to the public, correct? Article 1 of Principal Law 3. Well then, Naruto smirked. I can simulate a public environment with my clones. One will be your target and the others will just be normal civilians. But how will I know which is which? I'll have my clones change their appearances so they all look different and give you the details of the criminal. You have to find and catch him. I already told you that I am a talented hunter. Chichi frowned. Well then why don't we make it fun? Naruto smiled. Since you're so sure of yourself, why don't we make a bet of it? If you're able to complete whatever the goal of the training exercise is, then I'll assist you the only other way I can, by helping you find a handler who is able to help you. However, if you're unable to complete the goal, that means there is something I can teach you and you have to promise to stop being so uptight with the rules. Deal? Chichi nodded. I look forward on seeing your letter to request my transfer. Naruto grinned. I wouldn't get your hopes up just yet. You're going to be seeing this face for a while. Possibly, Chichi bowed her head. If you don't mind, I would like to stretch out before the exercise as outlined in the police academy training guidelines. You love your rules, Naruto chuckled as he left her to her stretches. I totally didn't see that coming. Kurama's voice was practically dripping with sarcasm. What? Another bleeding heart story. Admittedly you could throw it, but let's be honest, the moment you realized the parallels between you there was no way you could give up on helping her achieve her dream, is there? Am I that predictable? You might be the most unpredictable ninja, but you're the most predictable hero in history. I'll take it. Hero is a better title than demon. Naruto shook his head softly and made his way out of the house past the kitchen. Now this is a dessert spoon. Kaguya was still lecturing the clone. It looks like every other damn spoon. The clone wailed. I think I'll take a different exit. Naruto made a U-turn. Some time later, and this is a steak knife. Kaguya placed the sharp blade on the table. And this is a carving knife. Does it really matter? The clone protested. Does it really matter? Kaguya looked incredulous. It is quite apparent, if not for me you would probably descend into barbarism. You should be honored that a noble such as myself is spending her precious time instructing you on these things. One is only as noble as one acts. Aha, the clone looked for a distraction. Oh look, it's Chichi. Are you here to be enlightened? Kaguya turned to face the spider woman, who was wearing a jogging shirt that fell below her waist, acting as both a shirt and a skirt. What is with that strange outfit? Chance. The clone quickly grabbed the steak knife and stabbed itself, his final thoughts before bursting being a prayer that Naruto got the memory of the pain as revenge for forcing him to sit through Kaguya's lecture. I am training with handler-san, Chichi remarked simply. If I beat his challenge then he has agreed to help me find a new handler. Then you are probably going to stay here for a while, Kaguya scoffed. Considering that back when I was technically a goddess I failed to kill him, I doubt you would have much more luck. Attempting to kill our handler would be in violation of— Yes, Kaguya sighed. The rules that govern you commoners do not apply to those with noble blood. She turned to find the clone had dispelled. It appears that my servant is completely useless. He didn't even give the clone enough of my chakra to last through the lecture. Still, I suppose I should be grateful that he at least expended the chakra in a worthy cause. She turned to talk to Chichi, only to find she had left as well. That is fine. I had no desire to converse with that vulgar spider anyway. She turned to the lone rabbit that was sitting on the kitchen table, nibbling the leftovers from her breakfast salad. People of my station, we are destined to stand alone, misunderstood by those we watch over. The rabbit's nose twitched, which Kaguya took as a cue to talk. Your life must be quite easy, she stroked the creature's head. Unburdened by duty and the pressures of nobility. Even before I was a goddess, there were so many who expected so much of me. I was a symbol of hope, of a potential everlasting peace. Now look at me, her shoulders slumped. I am a failure. I failed to save the world. She sat down and laid her head on the table. What a pitiful creature I have become. She glanced at the empty sleeve of her kimono, a pitiful and incomplete creature. The rabbit nudged her head. What is my purpose? She wondered aloud. When I was a goddess it was so clear. I was saving the humans from themselves. I was trying to bring about a true peace, an everlasting peace, but now I find myself helpless and no doubt my home is burning with the fires of war. Without me the world will have descended into complete anarchy and it is all his fault. Kaguya lifted her head to glare in the direction of the fields where she assumed Naruto was. If he had just accepted my peace, if he had not tried to stop me. She clenched her one fist. I cannot forgive him for that. He doomed our world, but at the same time, I understand him a little better. It was not his intent to cause harm, but much like a child, he knows not what he does. He acts without thinking. The rabbit returned to the salad, crunching noisily on a particularly crispy piece of lettuce. I suppose as a noble it is my duty to overlook the commoners' faults and guide them to better themselves. She sighed as if realizing the depth of the task she had set herself. Still, one should not complain. Despite being thrown into a new world he has proven to be surprisingly adaptive. Maybe there is hope for that one. She reached up and stroked the horn that he had regenerated for her. He means well, she smiled fondly. Yes. I do not believe he is beyond redemption. The rabbit hopped off of the table. The sad thing is, she shook her head. You probably understood that a lot better than my clueless servant. She shook his head. I shiver to think of what inane training he has cooked up. No doubt wasting more of my chakra. With Naruto, still so sure you're going to win. Naruto glanced at Chichi who was stood frozen with shock. When you said you could make thousands, I thought you were bragging. Chichi glanced at Naruto. There must be at least 3,000. I don't know, never really tried to count. Naruto shrugged. Chichi returned her gaze to the forest where Naruto had been waiting for her. I wanted to try and use an earth jutsu to make large building-shaped obstacles, but earth isn't really my element. He looked slightly disheartened. I mean I can kind of use it, but I don't really know any actual earth jutsu. Jutsu? Techniques, like the cage bunshin. May I ask you a question? I am definitely human. May I ask a different question? Oh sure. Are you sure you are human? Yes, Naruto chuckled. So Chichi's look of shock was slowly fading. What is the task? One of the clones will be a criminal and it is your duty to find him. He, or possibly she, will be holding these bells and milling around in that forest with the other clones, trying to escape. Your task is to find him and safely capture him. Once he is captured you are to bring him back to me with the bells. Simple, right? He jingled a pair of bells. When I found these in that barn with the paint I knew I had to use them. I feel like Kakashi-sensei right now. Sure, Chichi nodded. Even with such a large number of people I am sure that I can keep track of one clone. But be warned. If he manages to reach a secret hideout that I have built in the forest, then you lose unless you actually track him to his hideout, then you can still win if you pursue him inside before he returns to me with the bells, Naruto smirked. But that has its own set of risks as he was interrupted by one of his clones, snatching the bells from his hand and running. Officer. I've been robbed. Try and catch me if you can. The clone, who was disguised as Yahiko, made a vulgar gesture before turning around and running, stuffing the bells into a pocket. What? Chichi was caught flat-footed but quickly leapt into action, pursuing the clone with agility that impressed Naruto. Whilst a normal human would find themselves quickly in trouble, her quarry was no normal human. This was a ninja and as agile as she was, she couldn't quite catch him before he reached the mass of clones. Excuse me, she tried to edge her way through the clones. Hey, watch it will you? One of clones snapped. I'm standing here. I'm sorry sir, but Chichi tried to move. Ah, Wani-sama. Your legs are strange. Can I touch them? A clone disguised as a young girl walked up to her. I'm sorry but I am in pursuit of a criminal. Her eyes desperately scanned for her prey until she caught bright orange hair. Got you. She smirked as she leapt towards him before blinking as an unfamiliar face looking back at her. No piercings. This is the wrong clone. Can I help you officer? The clone disguised as Yugo smiled politely. No thank you, she looked around annoyed. Where has he gone? She leapt into a tree and scanned the area. UNLUCKY Naruto's voice echoed through the trees and the clones all turned back into Naruto. I lost. Chichi sighed as she returned to Naruto, where the Yahiko clone was twirling the bells around his finger. Well? Naruto smiled at her. Did you think it would be easy and that's why you didn't use your webs? I can't. Chichi looked at him. Long leg typerach don't spin webs. Oh, I didn't know that. Naruto chuckled. I just assumed that you could. Sorry, that was insensitive of me. It is not your fault. If anything, the fact that you were assigned as my handler without the relevant information is Agent Smith's fault. Are you criticizing a coordinator? Isn't that against the rules? Naruto gasped in fake shock. I am allowed to make criticisms where necessary, Chichi mumbled, although was apparently not too proud of her remarks. Well, I guess that means you lose, Naruto rubbed the back of his head. Let's head back. There is a saying that rabbits die of loneliness, and if Kaguya dies then I am in a whole heap of trouble. Again. Chichi spoke softly. Pardon? Naruto paused. Again. Chichi repeated louder, a look of determination in her eyes. Okay, Naruto nodded and glanced at the clone. We'll try something a little different this time to keep things interesting. This time the clone will be an aggressive criminal holding several clones hostage. You have to take down the criminal with non-lethal force whilst ensuring none of the other clones die. He nodded to the Yahiko clone who raced off into the forest. Right, Chichi nodded, eager to complete this exercise. She seems really fired up. I wonder if that's because of the bet. Or maybe I'm an awesome teacher who inspires his students. So it's the bet then. Ignoring the smart-ass fox in his head, her turned to Chichi. Are you ready? Yes. She nodded. Sir. The Yahiko clone returned and gave a sloppy salute. We have an update on the situation. The target has 6 civilians held hostage in the forest. The target has black hair and a smile that doesn't look quite right. He's located half a kilometer inside the forest and appears to be armed. Understood, he glanced at Chichi. Are you ready officer? Yes sir. Chichi saluted before heading into the forest. This was her element, stalking an unaware target in order to deliver the killing blow. She paused in that line of thought, reminding herself that she had to try and take the target alive if possible. But she couldn't fail, her future career was counting on her being able to succeed. Back at the house, Kaguya glanced at a clock as she sat in the kitchen, her fingers tapping the surface of the table as she waited for Naruto to show up. How long can it take to train a vulgar spider to she paused. I don't even know what they are doing, but it shouldn't take this long. She stood up angrily. Who knows what that idiot servant of mine is doing? He probably got sidetracked by a wounded animal and is now racing to deliver it to some sort of animal healer. She chuckled at the thought of Naruto carrying a bleeding fox. I wonder why I instantly thought of a fox. Her attention was drawn to the floor as a couple of rabbits started to nudge her. "You're correct," Kaguya nodded. "No doubt he is lost in a ditch and requires my aid. He should be grateful to have such a gracious master." She started towards the door, a small trail of rabbits behind her. "This is not an unpleasant place to live," Kaguya remarked as she took in the fields. "My servant has been quite busy. Maybe in a year or so it would be a place worthy of the presence of one such as myself." She nodded. "Funny, as a princess I used to have 100 servants at my beck and call. All trained to the highest standards and aware of their duties. Now I have one who wouldn't know good manners if they hit him in the face." She scowled, although there was a hint of mirth in her features. She continued towards where the most noise was, assuming correctly this would be where Naruto was. What she saw almost made her pop a blood vessel. So much wasted chakra, she blinked as what must have been around 1,000 clones headed her way. "Oh, it's the bunny princess," one of the clones waved at her. "Hey Kaguya-chan. That's Kaguya-sama to you." Yeah, the clones waved off her remarks. "What are you doing?" "I am going to speak to the real you." "Oh, he's in the forest with Chichi." One of the clones pointed off into the forest. "Don't say such vulgar words in the presence of nobility." What would that be?" "Chichi. Because if it is Chichi then we can stop saying Chichi. Isn't that right?" One clone turned to face another clone. "That's right. We'll stop saying Chichi if Kaguya-chan wants us to stop saying Chichi." Kaguya rubbed her forehead tiredly. "What I wouldn't do for my chakra right about now." Haha, the clones laughed. "Well, we can't all just hang around chatting. Boss says he wants us to work on some of the other rooms. He wants a training room in there. So he has decided to stop just dismissing you. Well, he said if he did you would just complain about it and we should try not to upset you too much." Kaguya preened herself. "I see he's starting to respect my noble self." "Not really, he just doesn't want to make you hopping mad." Kaguya glare said more than words ever could. We'll be off then." The clones coughed awkwardly, unwilling to spend any more time being glared at by the angry ex-goddess. "You do that." Kaguya watched them flee before heading towards where the clones had indicated Naruto to be. But as Chichi approached the area the clone had mentioned, she tried to keep a low profile. She saw someone who matched the target, but they appeared to be bound up. After a few moments she realized that the clone, disguised as Sasuke, despite not looking like he knew Smile properly and dressed like he was from a strip club or something, was actually a hostage. The actual target was the one wearing a smile that looked so fake it was painful to look at. Chichi advanced on the position as the clone disguised as Sai walked amongst the hostages, twirling a kunai in his hand. Whilst Chichi was confident she could take down the clone, doing it without killing, it would be much more difficult, and that was without taking into account that she had to try and make sure the 6 civilians survived. Her mind raced as she tried to recall the rules for such a situation. The Sai clone walked over to one of the clones disguised as a child, Hanabi Hyuga to be exact, and picked it up by the scruff of her throat. "I'm fed up of waiting for my ransom. Maybe sending a small piece of you back will convince them to hurry up." Please no." The Hanabi clone squirmed. "Not good." Chichi quickly charged the target, expertly maneuvering through the undergrowth until she got within leaping distance, her agile movement meaning that the Sai clone was completely unaware of the rapidly approaching liminal until it was too late and the full mass of the liminal came down on him like an angel of vengeance. Unfortunately this meant that the fragile clone dispelled, taking the Hanabi clone with it. "For what it's worth," Naruto called from a tree. "A real human isn't quite that fragile." He jumped down next to her. "For example, I survived being hit by what Ms. Smith called a truck. Judging from the public reaction to that, I don't think most humans can survive that. Hell, if not for me, you might not have survived that." "The tails," Naruto thought back flippantly. "A loss is a loss. Those are the rules of the challenge." Chichi sighed. "One more time." Again. Naruto nodded. "Let's see what can this third test be. How about you try and catch me?" "You?" Chichi tilted her head. "That's right," Naruto nodded. "Unlike my clones I won't break so easily. This way you can learn to capture a strong human before working your way towards more fragile targets. To make things fair I'll only use my chakra to cling to surfaces. I'll head into the forest and wait for 1 hour. After which I'll make my way back here. If I get back here then I win and if you capture me, you win. You've seen the damage I caused to the clones. It would be in direct violation to Article 1 of Principle Law 5. It is a criminal offense for any humans to willingly and knowingly inflict harm upon a representative or put them in a scenario that would lead to injury without written and uncoerced confirmation from both the representative and the handler. This also applies to any harm inflicted upon the handler by a liminal. So basically we both just need to give our approval, right?" Naruto tilted his head. "Well yes, but you fail to realize the potential harm that you could suffer." Chichi frowned. "Can you summon a god that can send me through dimensions and turn me to ash if you land an attack on me?" "No. Then I'll be fine. I survived that after all." He grinned widely. "Just ask Kaguya how hard I am to kill." Where are you from? Chichi struggled to wrap her head around what he said. Let's just say I'm not from around here. Naruto chuckled. So you still want to try and catch me, or are you too scared now? When I decided to become a police officer I swore I would give it my all. Chichi shook her head. Giving up is not an option. Haha, Naruto nodded. That's the spirit. You ready? On the count of 3. Chichi stretched out her many legs. 1. Naruto crouched. 2. Hey, what are you doing? Chichi blinked. Being a ninja. Naruto laughed as he set off running early. You cheater. Chichi took off after the grinning ninja. Oh, and criminals always play by the rules. Chichi narrowed her eyes as the two sped into the undergrowth. So why are you doing this again? I don't know. It seemed like a good idea. Still, she seems pretty agile. Duck. What? Naruto rolled as Chichi leapt over him. Damn. She can jump. Well, she isn't the only one. Remember? No chakra besides to cling to surfaces. Was that Kaguya? What? Naruto glanced over his shoulder to see the irate goddess and her small army of rabbits traversing the undergrowth. Branch. Oh right. Naruto grinned as he ducked under the obstacle, landing flat against another tree and racing towards the canopy, Chichi quickly scurrying up the neighboring tree matching pace with him. You know, I wasn't expecting you to be this fast. Once I have my prey in my sights, it won't escape. What about those clones that you failed to capture? I underestimated you. Chichi kicked off the tree towards Naruto who leapt off and grabbed a hold of another branch, watching as Chichi tore through the tree where he would have been stood. Maybe I limited myself too much, Naruto frowned. Hey Chichi. He tried to spot the spider woman. I get the feeling she decided against a direct assault and is now waiting to ambush you. Ambush a ninja. Ha. Naruto smirked as he dropped to the forest floor. Good luck with that. He looked around, searching for the telltale sign of movement amongst the bushes. Huh, she's good. He closed his eyes, listening to the sounds of the forest. Wherever Chichi had gone, she was being awfully quiet. At least I don't have to worry about her setting some sort of trap with webs. He opened his eyes. So any plans? Well, technically I can just sit around waiting, then head back to the original meeting point to win. I'm guessing she will be hoping to ambush me on the way back and is using this time to set up some traps for me. Naruto looked around before sitting down. And you're going to let her, aren't you? Of course. Naruto grinned as he sat down, enjoying the calm of the forest. He pulled a kunai from his pocket and checked the reflection to make sure she wasn't behind him before picking up a branch and cutting at it. Has an hour passed yet? He thought jokingly. Yes. Kurama responded sarcastically. Wait, really? No, not even close. Naruto got into a meditative pose. Might as well kill some time then. He sat down, allowing the natural energies to flow through him. I see that this world still has natural energy, even if no one else seems to have chakra. He smiled slightly as he felt the strange energy of the world, familiar yet completely foreign at the same time. He could sense so many life forms around him. This is really a busy little forest, isn't it? He murmured as he extended his senses. Time seemed to flow by quickly until his trance was broken by Kurama. Your hour's up. If you want to keep meditating, don't let me stop you, but remember there's no toad with a staff to beat you here, though. His name is wait a minute. You're a genius. I know I am, but just in case I had forgotten, why am I a genius? The toads. Naruto stood up, dispelling the natural energy he had gathered. They can reverse summon me back home. Maybe. Kurama was skeptical. But the chakra required to summon one here must be astronomical. I doubt we could do it. Well, we can at least try. Naruto grinned. Now? I suppose it can wait until we finish this test. Naruto glanced into the forest. You think she's finished yet? I suspect yes. What do you? Naruto instinctively rolled forward and started to run as the sound of Chichi tearing through the undergrowth sounded directly behind him. Being a little noisy, isn't she? He started towards the tree line, but Chichi cut him off, forcing him to change directions and leap into the trees, Chichi following behind him. Every time he tried to change direction, she quickly leapt in the way of his attempt to escape, forcing him to follow the route she wanted. Just what is she planning? She only had an hour to prepare. Naruto frowned as he easily kept his distance from her. She isn't even trying to chase me down now. What is she planning? He ran across the forest floor, tracking her movements out of the corner of his eyes. Just a little longer. Chichi smiled as she saw Naruto heading towards her trap. No matter which direction I attack from, you can just jump out of the way. In order to capture you I have to leap when you're in mid-jump and unable to alter your course. Do you think she plans to lose? Naruto wondered. No, she has a similar look in her eyes to you. She won't give up. Heh, I knew there was something about her that was familiar. Naruto smirked as he approached some bramble bushes that marked the edge of the forest, almost home free. Here we go. Chichi prepared herself. And away we crap. Naruto cried out in alarm as he leaped over the bushes, twisting his body to narrowly miss several beehives in the tree. Phew, that was close, he chuckled before stepping forward and feeling something catch on his leg. As he tugged his leg free he saw the familiar glint of a tripwire and the beehives briefly shook, followed by the sound of angrily buzzing bees starting to leave the hives. Not today. Naruto leapt backwards from the hives and their guardians. Here's my chance. Chichi dived at the airborne Naruto. Huh? Naruto's eyes widened. Clever girl, he regretted his handicap, without his other abilities he was a sitting duck, so he did the best he could and braced for the inevitable impact. Mission achieved, Chichi declared as she grabbed Naruto tightly, the speed of her impact knocking the air from his lungs as she came down to land, only to realize too late that she had been so focused on catching Naruto, she had launched herself at him more energetically than she had planned to. Rather than a soft landing on the grass, the two of them were headed straight for the lake next to the farm. She braced herself for an impact that never came. A sudden surge of warmth spread through her body and she found herself held above the water by a glowing yellow limb. Naruto himself was stood atop the water's surface. How? Chichi blinked as the golden limb put her down on the shore. Chakra, Naruto replied simply as he walked over to the shore. It's kind of like a natural energy that powers me and my jutsu. Thank you, Chichi nodded, whilst I wouldn't have died, being submerged is extremely unpleasant for me. It appears that you may have some latent talent as a handler after all. Naruto rubbed the back of his head. Thanks I guess. So you're not a big fan of water huh? It's just that my lungs are in my abdomen, Chichi gestured to her spider half. In what you could call my rear. I can breathe through the surface of my skin so when I am submerged, well it won't kill me, it feels like I'm suffocating from all sides. Wait you breathe from your butt. Naruto blinked. I leave you alone for an hour and already you have dropped to that vulgar spider's level, a disapproving Kaguya remarked as she emerged from the forest, her kimono looking slightly worse for wear. Oh hi Kaguya-chan. Kaguya-sama, the former goddess brushed herself off and sat down. You shall address me as Kaguya-sama. Whatever you say Kaguya-sama-chan. I will not sink to your level, Kaguya scoffed. I have just one question. Oh? Why are you wasting my chakra? She pointed at his golden form. Oh this? Naruto laughed weakly. Well you see we were going to fall into the lake, so I called on Kurama's power to stop Chichi and I from getting soaked. So you wasted my chakra because you didn't want to get wet. Kaguya remarked. When you put it like that it seems less cool, Naruto grumbled. Nothing about you is cool, except your association to me. Kaguya remarked. As my servant it is. You know what, I was going to let you come back home with me, but now I think I'll just leave you here, Naruto crossed his arms. You mean to tell me you have found a way back home? Kaguya's eyes lit up slightly. I'm pretty sure I have, Naruto allowed himself a moment of smugness. I mean it would take a lot of chakra. It would finally be a use that wasn't a complete waste, Kaguya smiled. Huh? Naruto chuckled. This must be one of the first times I've actually seen you smile. You should do that more. It suits you. It is the duty of a servant to compliment their master, Kaguya remarked. Although admittedly my old servants never seemed quite as sincere with their compliments as you just did. I can't even say anything nice to her, Naruto turned to Chichi who looked bemused at their interactions. So I guess this is goodbye then. You're leaving. Well hopefully. Just as well really, considering you successfully captured me. That means I have to write a letter for you to find a new handler. Chichi frowned softly. I don't believe I won. Huh? 2 out of 3 times I was soundly beaten. I am grateful that you even allowed me more than one chance. Chichi bowed her head. As per the rules that we agreed upon, I am to stay with you. But I might be heading back home. Article 2A, subsection 1. A handler is responsible for the well-being of their assigned representatives until the relevant body qualifies the representative for human integration without a handler or the handler is deemed incapable of performing their duties. Chichi quoted. Until Agent Smith says otherwise I must stay with you. What are you saying? If you are to leave this residence then I must accompany you. Chichi stated firmly. But, Naruto blinked. We could be going far away. There is no limit on the reach of the law. Kaguya a little help. I'm sorry. Kaguya looked at him. You can't have been talking to me. Fine, Naruto sighed. Oh gracious Kaguya-sama. Please help me. He rolled his eyes. No, Kaguya smiled at him. This is for the face paint isn't it? When will you let that go? Naruto wailed. When you undo ruining the last hope of peace for our home. I just can't win with you can I? Naruto rolled his eyes. Well here goes nothing. He bit his thumb and slammed it down on the floor. Kuchius no jutsu. Was something supposed to happen? Kaguya remarked unimpressed. Kurama give me all you've got. This isn't going to work. Kurama remarked but relinquished a great deal of chakra regardless. Now to top it all up with a little nature chakra. Naruto took a deep breath and closed his eyes. When he opened them his eyes, already red from the effect of the cloak, had been replaced by his orange sage eyes with slits through the bars, thanks to Kurama's influence. Wait a minute, do you feel that Kurama tried to get Naruto's attention, but he was too focused on his jutsu to care about anything else right now? Here we go. Kuchius no Jutsu. Naruto bit his thumb again and poured as much chakra as he could into the summoning. There was a burst of smoke that filled the area, and when it cleared, Naruto let out a whoop of joy. It worked. Naruto laughed. Odd, she doesn't look like the other female toads I met. Maybe after a certain age they all just end up looking like Granny Sage. Kaguya blinked as she took in this new arrival. She had green skin with brown splotches appearing now and again on her arms and legs. She wore what looked like a conductor's hat with blonde bangs covering her forehead. The rest of her hair was tied into a high ponytail that trailed down the large coat she was wearing, its sleeves rolled up to her elbows and her collar lifted up. Beneath the coat she wore only some bindings to cover her modest chest and some dark pants tied at the waist with a rope belt. Kaguya noted that her bare feet were on display, revealing the webbing between her toes that was mirrored on her hands. This one must be even more common than my servant. Kichi found herself instinctively distrusting this new arrival. She looks like some sort of delinquent. What is this ruffian doing here? Alright. Naruto grinned. I need you to go back and tell Grandpa Sage to. I ain't doing nothing. The toad girl spat. Eh? Naruto blinked. As amusing as this is, Kaguya brushed off her kimono and stood up to leave. I am returning home. I will bathe then be down to have a meal. I expect the bath to be ready and hot for me in 10 minutes. Where do you think you are going? The toad scowled. To my house. Kaguya retorted. It ain't yours anymore. She declared. You all listen good. My name is Nectafree, but you're going to be calling me Toph-sama from now on. You're my underlings and this is my territory now. Chapter 3. The farm was strangely quiet, given the usual hustle of Naruto's clones hard at work fixing it up. The 3 residents of the restored building were all stood staring at the new arrival, the toad girl Toph. There was a sort of stunned silence as Naruto and his 2 charges looked at each other, not quite sure how to respond before Naruto finally spoke. I'm sorry. Naruto frowned, still clad in his golden cloak, his Kyuubi sage eyes focused on Toph. And you should be. Toph crossed her arms atop the bindings covering her modest chest. I'm the boss around here now. I get the feeling she's not from Mount Myaboku. Naruto scowled. Come to think of it, she does look a lot more humanoid than the other toads. Mount what? Toph scowled. Never heard of it. I could have sworn that I performed the jutsu right, Naruto scowled. What the hell went wrong? Clearly a lowly being such as yourself would never be able to achieve the same feats, as Kaguya looked proud for a moment. Although I will give you some credit where it is due. You did make an impressive smoke cloud. I'm just going to take that as a compliment. Hey, stop ignoring me, you bastards. Toph pointed angrily at Naruto. You respect the boss, you hear? I don't know what happened, but I was the one who summoned you, so Naruto started until he was cut off by a derisive snort from Toph. Summoned? Toph snorted. What? You suffering from a case of Junupi or something? Eh? You can't summon people, idiot, she scoffed. You don't have some sort of magic powers. I've remained silent for too long. Chichi angrily stepped forwards. Handler-san is recognized by the exchange treaty and as such deserves your respect as stated by Article 21D subsection 1. Bite me, Toph spat. You can stick your stupid rules right up your ass. I follow my own rules. How crass, Kaguya scowled disapprovingly. It appears this world is full of foul-mouthed beings like the vulgar spider here. Eh? You say something, you stuck-up bitch. How about I beat some respect into you? She cracked her neck menacingly. Servant, deal with this unsightly blemish. Just try it. Okay, Naruto held his arms up to calm the situation. Clearly we have gotten off on the wrong foot here. Let's start with the basics, shall we? I'm Naruto and this is Kaguya and Chichi and we live here. Now, you said you're called Toph, right? How'd you get here if I didn't summon you? I go wherever the hell I want. Without a handler. Chichi scowled. Do you have the correct permits? Permits? Toph snorted. I don't need no stinking permits. I don't follow those stupid exchange laws. Wait a minute. Chichi stepped between Naruto and Toph. You admit to being a criminal, breaking the law, in front of me. Maybe I am, what is it to you? It is my duty as a future police officer to place you under citizen's arrest. She produced some handcuffs from her belt. Eh? You think those little things can keep me contained? Toph sneered. You'll never be able to capture me, you useless copper. Why not go back to eating donuts and getting fat? You bitch, Chichi twitched with rage. How dare you mock the honorable profession of policing? I refuse to stand back and let some delinquent frog mock such an honorable occupation. What did you call me? Toph lowered her head so that the cap of her hat covered her eyes. You heard me, you delinquent frog. I'm going to enjoy this. Toph raised her head again, her eyes glowing with righteous fury. I'm not a frog, you stupid bitch. She opened her mouth and launched her tongue with lightning quick speed, but her attack never found its target. Faster than either Chichi or Toph could see, Naruto had stepped in front of Chichi and grabbed Toph's tongue. Now, Naruto sighed. Let's calm down, shall we? He released Toph's tongue. I know from experience that toads tend to get upset when you call them frogs. Well, she insulted policing, Chichi narrowed her eyes. And she's a criminal. So you're the boss then? Toph grinned. You the one whose ass I have to kick in order to run this place. What, Chichi scowled. Threatening a handler that'll get you deported. Like I give a damn. I'm still gonna crush him. Toph pointed at Naruto. A liminal handler, huh? After I kick his ass I'll take that title too and use it to build up my gang of liminals. I'll be the most baddest gang leader ever. Trust me, Naruto shook his head. You don't want to do this. Oh but I do, Toph crouched. If you impress me I might even let you stay on as my lieutenant or something. Handler-san, Chichi frowned. It is against the law for a human to injure a liminal. Allow me to apprehend her. Don't worry, Naruto chuckled. I'm not going to hurt her. Damn straight you aren't, Toph yelled as she launched herself full speed at Naruto. You gonna be seeing stars. I doubt that, Naruto ducked under her attack, resulting in the toad soaring over the top of Naruto and landing heavily on the ground, where she quickly regained her footing and lashed out with her tongue, a victorious glint in her eye as the tongue wrapped around Naruto's arm and pulling him towards her, only to be surprised when Naruto was replaced by a section of old piping that had been torn away from the old building during the renovations. Naruto watched as Toph, somewhat confused by what had happened, was a second too slow to react and struck herself in the face with the pipe before releasing it from her tongue. That wasn't against the exchange laws, was it? Naruto glanced at Chichi. That was technically self-inflicted. Chichi replied. So I'll overlook it. Arg damn it. Toph glared at Naruto. How the hell did you do that? I had you right where I wanted you. As if a simple attack like that would be enough to stop a future Hokage, Naruto proudly boasted. Pride cometh before the fall. Kurama warned. I'm sure that Kaguya would have said it would take more than a small group of sexy naked pretty boys to distract her, but we all remember how that played out. And Iruka-sensei said that was a stupid technique. Naruto shook his head. Incoming. Huh? Naruto yelped in shock as the angry amphibian leapt at him again, relying on large leaps to close the distance, but for all her angry yells and furious swings, she never looked like landing a solid hit on Naruto. This feels kind of familiar, Naruto mused. What, an angry girl trying to clobber you? You're thinking of that pink-haired girl, right? Sakura. Yeah, I wonder how she's doing since we ended up here. Do you think her and Sasuke are trying to find a way to bring me back? I wouldn't hold my breath on that one. What's the big idea? Toph noticed Naruto's distant look. Pay attention to me when we're fighting, damn it. Ah sorry, Naruto rubbed the back of his head. I was just getting nostalgic. Huh? You remind me of an old friend. She had a mighty temper and quite a bit of strength as well. Not to mention they're both lacking in the chest department. That's true, Naruto thought aloud. Both Sakura-chan and Toph do have small chests. What did you say? Toph seemed to glow with rage. Probably shouldn't have said that out loud. Naruto blinked. So what if my chest is small? It's the perfect size for kicking your ass, you bastard. Toph launched herself at the flustered Naruto, who was trying to apologize, but all Toph could hear was the blood pounding in her ears. Take this, you breast maniac. She struck Naruto with all her might, causing him to skid backward slightly, with some bruising on his cheek. That's assault. Chichi stepped forward. I can no longer stand back. You are acting in violation of article. It's okay, Naruto winced as he rubbed his cheek, the golden chakra cloak having protected him from any serious damage. Do you feel better now, eh? Sakura-chan always seemed to calm down after I let her hit me. Naruto smiled slightly as he raised a hand to touch the bruise. Ouch, that stings. Quit being such a baby. You've been skewered through the chest by your best friend. That's serious physical and emotional damage. Compared to that, this is barely a gentle tap on the wrist. Kurama rolled his eyes as he settled down in Naruto's mind. You're saying you let me hit you? Toph scowled. Just admit that you are no match for me. So you still want to fight? Naruto sighed. Oh well. I guess it's time to end this then. I'll end your face. Toph threw another punch, but this time Naruto simply leaned to the side, allowing the angry toad's attack to miss. Having put all of her weight into the blow, the complete lack of impact caused her to stagger forwards. Before Toph even had time to register that her attack hadn't landed, Naruto had swept her feet from below her and pinned her to the floor on her back, a knee firmly but gently placed against her stomach and a kunai held just above her throat so as to not cut her, yet still make it clear that any struggling would probably not end well for the new arrival. What the hell happened? Toph blinked. That was too fast, Goldilocks. Handler-san, is that a weapon? Chichi frowned. It's a kunai, Naruto nodded. Do you have the relevant permit? Permit? The blonde ninja looked confused. What for? The weapon? Chichi frowned. It's against the law in Japan to carry a blade with a length in excess of 6 centimeters. You could face 2 years in jail and up to 300,000 yen. Please use these handcuffs. She handed the handcuffs she had taken out earlier to Naruto. Let go. Toph squirmed as Naruto held the handcuffs uncertainly. Fine, I give up. you happy? There, you have dealt with the issue, Kaguya remarked. Now stop wasting my chakra. I'm pretty sure you could have ended that at any time. Your prolonging of the conflict only served to waste more chakra. You should be more frugal with its application, you wasteful servant. Geez, Naruto rolled his eyes as he allowed his golden cloak to disperse, retaining his sage mode to deal with the Toad Girl's impressive strength. Anyone would think it wasn't a renewable energy source. Maybe for some, Kaguya remarked testily. Oh right. Sorry. Naruto laughed weakly before looking down at Toph, so you said you had surrendered, right? Eh? What kind of a liminal are you? Toph frowned, wait your eyes, she stopped her struggling for a moment on seeing the familiar toad eyes. Are you like me? I'm a human, Naruto assured her as he dropped his sage mode. But I have a bit of an affinity with toads. Huh, Toph didn't quite understand what that meant but accepted the explanation. Now are you going to settle down and talk or do I have to keep you pinned like this? DCH, Toph looked away. I'll talk on one condition. Oh? That stupid copper apologizes for calling me a frog. I ain't no slimy frog. I'm a toad-type bullywig. Well? Naruto glanced at Chichi. You wish for me to apologize to this delinquent? Isn't there a rule about treating other liminals with respect or something? Well yes, but that's only members of the exchange program. She is a criminal. Then how about the one that says you should listen to your handler? You are correct of course. Chichi scowled at Toph. Go on then. Toph grinned. Sorry, Chichi scowled. For calling you a frog. You are a delinquent though, and one that should be deported. That'll do. Toph smirked as Naruto released her and helped her to her feet. I apologize sincerely for my conduct. As an exchange student, I should behave in a way that does not reflect negatively on my handler. As such, I am truly sorry for behaving in such an unsightly manner. Chichi bowed her head to Naruto. I fully understand if you wish to report my actions to Agent Smith. Don't worry about it, Naruto smiled at Chichi. You're too kind, handler-san. Geez, get that weepy crap out of here, Toph snorted. I'm sorry, did you say something? Chichi narrowed her 6 eyes. What? All those donuts you eat affecting your hearing, copper? Toph cupped her ear. You need me to speak louder. Clearly you have taken too many blows to your cranium in your delinquent pursuits. It's affecting your mental processes. Chichi scowled at the toad. It appears the vulgar spider and the miscreant are going to be a nuisance again. Kaguya yawned. I am heading home. Well, I should have expected you to fail, you managed to actually fail even worse than I was expecting. What a useless servant. Hey, Naruto defended himself. At least I am still trying to find a way back home rather than sitting around acting all high and mighty. Kaguya paused and frowned. Maybe I was little too harsh with my words. She turned to leave, hiding a slightly saddened expression. And that's probably as close to an apology as I'm going to get. Naruto sighed. Damn, she's a bitch, Toph scoffed. Kaguya-san is a little frigid at times, Chichi frowned. If I were to identify an issue with her, it would be her lack of respect for handler-san, in direct violation of the exchange laws. Well, it's not like she doesn't have her reasons. Naruto sighed. I mean, I'm sort of the reason she's trapped here, has no powers and is missing an arm. I don't even want to know. Anyway, she should still respect you, Chichi stated. It is clearly stated in article. I know, Naruto cut her off. She's probably just suffering from culture shock. She'll get better with time. At least I hope she gets better. There's only so much of her sneering I can take. If you are sure. Chichi didn't look convinced but dropped the subject regardless. Stuck-up bitches like that really piss me off. Toph snorted. Say Toph. If I didn't summon you, then how'd you get here? Naruto returned his attention to the amphibian liminal. She leapt into the cloud of smoke while everyone was focused on you. Kurama informed him. She seemed to come from the direction of the road. Wait, you knew she wasn't summoned, why didn't you tell me? I tried but you were too busy wasting our chakra, oh gods, I'm turning into the bunny hag. Naruto shook his head with a soft smile as Toph prepared to tell her story. Toph smirked as she stared off into the distance. Truly, it was an epic battle. There I was, armed only with my Bakken against a small army of ogres and undying zombies. They tried to crush me, but I held my own, fiercely battling until one of the cowards knocked me out from behind. Then, as they were transporting me in a heavily armed convoy with elite soldiers guarding me, but as soon as I woke up, I broke free of my chains, kicked the asses of those elites and broke out of the convoy. Really? Naruto raised any eyebrow. Yeah, and then Toph suddenly went silent as a large vehicle pulled towards the house. It was a heavily reinforced transport with the back doors hanging off as if some sort of explosion had forced them open. The vehicle pulled up in front of the farm, its engine spluttering loudly as it drew to a halt, and a familiar figure stepped from the back of the transport with a cheerful smile. What is that racket? Kaguya sighed, returning the group upon hearing the transport drive up. Sunglasses is here. It must be approaching a meal time then. The large armored figure followed Ms. Smith out of the back of the vehicle. Kaguya ground her teeth angrily. That uncultured oaf who threw me other his shoulder like some kind of sack of food. She finished weakly. I'm not cooking a meal right now, Naruto remarked dryly as Ms. Smith and Tio approached. Now, Smith sighed. You make it sound like I only ever show up to bum a meal off of you. I'll have you know I'm here on official business. I see you've met Nectarfree-chan. Naruto put two and two together, so I'm guessing that's the armored convoy you escaped from. He glanced at the beat-up truck. Why yeah, Toph glared at Tio. This time you won't take me by surprise. Surprise? Naruto blinked. Oh, Nectarfree is just upset that Tio picked her up in a bear hug she couldn't escape from. Kind of like that. Ms. Smith pointed to the toad girl who was lifted off of the ground in the steel grip of one of Tio's hugs. Hey. Toph squirmed. Let me go. Don't do it, Tio, Ms. Smith shook her head. Can't have her running away again. An army of ogres, huh? Chichi scowled at the sweating Toph. As expected of a delinquent, you were lying through your teeth. I'll bet there wasn't even any zombies. Oh, there was one, Ms. Smith nodded. Zambina-chan. It seemed like more, Toph weakly protested. So were you here then if not to mooch food? Naruto crossed his arms. Well, I would like to tell you but my throat is just so parched. As a good host, you'll offer me some coffee while I talk, won't you? Ms. Smith smiled. Should have seen that coming. Naruto, Kaguya and Chichi all shared the same thought for a moment. Well, let's head back to the house and you can tell me all about it, Naruto sighed. If you insist, Ms. Smith smiled. A few moments later. The gang were all sat around a table in Naruto's dining area. As with most of the rooms, this large meeting area was largely devoid of decoration. There was a large table, which seemed to have been designed with the taller liminals in mind, as Chichi had little difficulty getting comfortable. Toph had easily leapt onto her chair opposite the spider girl, but Kaguya had needed Naruto's assistance to climb into the slighter larger chairs, much to her embarrassment. Kaguya sat scowling. It was embarrassing enough that she needed to be helped onto her chair, but to add insult to injury, she had been provided with a pair of chopsticks that were proving difficult to separate with one hand. After watching her nearly knock over her drink, Naruto decided he had to do something. Do you need a hand? Naruto offered. I do not require assistance for such a basic task, Kaguya replied angrily as she continued in her efforts. If I had my full power I could create my own chopsticks, now I find myself at the mercy of a small piece of wood. She glanced at the loose kimono sleeve where her arm should have been, had a certain blonde ninja not torn it from her. She felt a spike of anger and helplessness which was only compounded when Naruto took the chopsticks from her and separated them. We don't have to be enemies. Naruto pointed out as he returned the chopsticks. Do not flatter yourself, Kaguya refused the chopsticks, her pride severely wounded, and she retaliated using the only weapon she had left, her disdain and scorn. You are not important enough to be to earn the title of enemy. Would you call the gnat buzzing in your ear an enemy? Naruto bit back an angry retort. I need her to get back home. I can't forget that. He let out a sigh and chose to ignore Kaguya and return his attention to Smith, Chichi and Toph. So Naruto prompted you were going to tell me the story behind Toph. There's no rush. Took a sip of coffee. Ah, this is the stuff, she nodded happily as a cage bunchin poured her another cup of coffee. I don't suppose that I could borrow one of these clones as a sort of servant. She nodded to the clones stood next to her, they seem to be quite useful. It's an impressive ability you have. It is, isn't it? Naruto grinned happily at the positive response to his favorite technique. Careful Naruto. Don't go falling for a few compliments. She'll have you waiting on her every moment of the day if you let your guard down. I'm not that weak to compliments. Naruto rolled his eyes. Would you mind if I kept this clone? Wait, what? The clone blinked. He makes such a good cup of coffee. Ms. Smith took another happy sip. Oops, the clone spoke in a deadpan before dropping the boiling coffee he was holding on his foot, dispelling him in an instant. Idiot clones, Naruto groaned. Aren't the clones copies of you? Kaguya asked as she sipped her carrot juice, her bunnies all edging around her slowly, as if they sensed the storm of negative emotions whirling through her right now. Yes, and? So wouldn't that mean you're an idiot as well? Well, how does it feel to have been sealed away by an idiot? Kaguya opened her mouth and shut it a few times, unable to think of a good comeback. Agent Smith, Chichi cleared her throat as Kaguya struggled to think of something to say. I was wondering if I might ask a question. Of course. Smith was grateful for the change in topic. The tense mood was ruining her appetite. Not that she wouldn't eat a free meal, mind you, she just wouldn't be able to enjoy it as much. Well, Chichi glared at Toph, this criminal is clearly a threat to any possible host, so I was wondering what the plan was in regards to her deportation. I ain't going nowhere. Toph declared. You're a criminal and should be sent away. Preferably to a prison of some sort where you belong. There ain't no prison that can hold me. The toad type boasted proudly. Well, Smith chuckled. Under the usual circumstances, the offender would be transferred to a secure location until all the arrangements could be made with the exchange student's homeland. Then they would be sent home as quickly as possible. Usually there are also a few political hurdles that need to be cleared before deportation can take place, though. I would be willing to lend any assistance that you require of me in order to see this delinquent brought to justice. Fight me? Toph slammed her palms on the table angrily. What a lively household, Smith chuckled. Where's your friend? Naruto made a gesture with his arms to indicate the tall figure who had accompanied Ms. Smith. OTO? I figured it would be rude to have my subordinate wear that heavy armor while eating the meal you're so generously going to prepare. Oh, Naruto frowned. I don't know what sort of food he likes. Ms. Smith smiled mischievously. Oh, it doesn't really matter. Just normal food will probably do, although if you can make a sweet dessert, I think Tio would appreciate that. Okay, Naruto turned to a group of clones who were running around the kitchen. I guess the food will be ready soon. You were going to tell us why you're here, right? Oh right, Smith nodded. Well you see, I was on my way here with Tio and Nectafree-chan earlier in the transport. Lem go. You can't keep me caged. Toph declared as she struggled to break the chains that connected the handcuffs she was wearing to the floor of the van. She was sitting on a bench in the back of the large transport, trying to squirm free. Sitting beside her was Tio, fully clad in her armor with one hand on the Toad-type's shoulder to prevent her escape should she somehow get out of her chains. Ms. Smith was sat opposite Toph, a half-empty cup of coffee in one hand and a collection of files in the other. You've just been arrested for attacking your handler and trying to take over his house. Ms. Smith raised an eyebrow at Toph. All in all, you're lucky that you aren't in some sort of straitjacket. You pose a significant risk to those around you. Bite me? Toph spat at Ms. Smith. You could at least give me my bakken. I don't think so. Ms. Smith rubbed her forehead. Do you know how much damage you did to one of my team members? She could have dodged, Toph frowned. It's not my fault your lackeys lack self-preservation instincts. Zambina-chan is a special case, Tio remarked. Besides, Toph scowled at Ms. Smith. I was perfectly justified. That bastard called me a frog. Like hell I was going to put up with that. Your handler didn't mean it as an insult, Tio tried to calm the furious Toad-type bullywig. Like hell he didn't. Toph started to squirm angrily. Do I look like some sort of slimy frog? Why the hell are they just called bullywigs anyway? Shouldn't they be called frog types if I have to be called a toad type? It's damn speciesism you lousy bastards. Please stop struggling, Tio frowned softly. Why? So they can send me to jail or kick me out of the country, Toph scoffed. Like hell I'm giving up that easy. Fight me. Toph tried ineffectively to headbutt Tio. Not so tough in a face-to-face fight are you? Tio glanced at a bemused Smith as the furious Toad Liminal tried to headbutt through Tio's armor. If my bakken hadn't gotten stuck in that zombie I would have kicked all of your sorry asses. Toph yelled. My, Smith chuckled. You are going to be quite a handful. She opened the file on her lap and read it. Nectafree, Toad-type bullywig. Current violations to the exchange program include violence against a host, behavior liable to cause harm to the public, and excessive profanity. Ms. Smith rubbed her forehead. Why did you join the program in the first place? Because I could, Toph shrugged. What coordinator let you into the program with such a half-assed reason? Smith turned over the page. Oh, who was it? Tio asked. And never mind that, Smith coughed awkwardly. I suppose it would be easier to just send you home then. It isn't as if you have any goals to achieve. Like hell. Toph declared. I decided I was going to be in this program and that's it. My pride won't allow me to back down now. Well fortunately for you, there is one last handler I could assign you to. I don't think he would have too much trouble dealing with you, but be warned this truly is your last chance. Ha! You must think I was born yesterday. There's no human that can handle me. Toph smirked proudly. I'm a total badass. I only follow my own rules so you can tell your handler to shove it. You're determined to give me more work, aren't you? Ms. Smith pushed her sunglasses up. Unfortunately for you, I don't have the time to do more work, so you're being assigned to my specialist handler. Ms. Smith continued to read the paperwork, making sure to edit out all mentions of her name in the approval process. Unfortunately for the work-shy Smith, there were a lot of documents that mentioned her, and if it got back she had approved Toph's assignment, she would likely be forced to take the refresher course, which was a week of the most boring classroom-based learning Ms. Smith had ever had the misfortune of being sent on. Twice. Specialist handler Toph frowned. That doesn't sound good. Is it some sort of internment camp crap? I need to figure a way out of here. Don't worry. Tio tried to reassure Toph. Well I've only briefly met this handler, Ms. Smith speaks highly of him. I'm sure that you'll be happy with him. TCH, Toph scowled. Probably just another lecher who wanted to be surrounded by cute girls. Then he'll see me and be all oh no, this isn't a cute lamia or a cat girl. Maybe he likes frogs and toad types. Why the hell would you say those two things together? Toph growled. They are completely different things. Ah sorry, many people wouldn't know the difference. Tio tried to explain. Oh, so that makes it okay. Maybe I should just refer to you as a giant cause you're so freaking huge. How's that make you feel, huh? You freaking giant. Well, Tio slumped slightly. She was already quite concerned about her height without Toph pointing it out. Toph narrowed her eyes as Tio removed her hand from Toph's shoulder and started to wring her hands nervously. So they are both distracted. This is my chance. She closed her eyes and started to focus on bad memories, the first time she had met her original handler, the look of disappointment on his face, and his request for a cuter liminal. As her anger grew, her body started to emit a toxin from the bumps on the back of her neck. After pausing to make sure Tio and Smith were still distracted, she bent over until she could reach the back of her head and rubbed the toxin into her handcuffs, allowing it to lubricate her wrists. Before Smith and Tio even realized what she was doing, she had leapt to her feet, her hand slipping from the manacles, and launched herself at the back door, using the explosive jumping power at her disposal to clear the distance and kick open the door. "Catch you later, bitch," Toph declared to Smith, "and next time I'll waste you." She pointed at Tio before leaping clear of the van. "Ah," Tio turned to Smith. She got away. "I might even have to go on the month course now." Smith's shoulders slumped. "Unless haha, Smith-san. Naruto's clones. We're close to the farm and we can get him to find her." Smith smirked. "Quickly. To the farm," she banged on the partition between the driver and the rear of the vehicle. "My free time depends on it." But Toph, the amazing Toph-sama does it again. Sticking it to the man against impossible odds. Toph smirked as she hopped into the forest. "I can hang out around here for a while. No one will find me, and there are bound to be plenty of grubs and berries and such around here that I can eat." Toph nodded as she sat down on a tree stump. "Ugh, what is this?" "Sap." She looked at a strange sticky substance on her hand. There was the sound of rustling grass behind her and she felt hungry eyes staring at her. "Who's there? You wanna go? I'll kick your ass." Toph declared to the bushes as she tried to spot the foe. "What, you too chicken to face me?" She snapped a branch off of a tree and brandished it like a sword. "Come on," she taunted. The bushes rustled some more. "Fine, I'll come to you then." Toph lunged with a branch, thrusting it into the bush and slashing blindly, causing whatever was causing the noise to retreat. "Ha! Another victory for Toph-sama." She glanced at the badly splintered branch and tossed it to one side. "I am unstoppable right now. But the fact is that those government goons probably won't leave me alone. I'll need followers." "Heh." Toph smirked. "I'll need a gang to oppose those bastards. Maybe I can find some liminals around here and beat them into submission." She cracked her fists. "Yeah, that sounds like a plan." She started to look around the forest until she saw some damaged trees and signs of a chase. Heh, whatever made these tracks must be hella strong. They'll definitely be useful when facing that giant again. Following the trail of damage, she approached the edge of the forest, where a glowing yellow liminal appeared to be talking to a strange one-armed liminal that had a glare so cold, Toph half expected the nearby lake to freeze over, as well as a long-legged typerachin. "What are they doing?" Toph wondered as the golden liminal bit his thumb and slammed it on the floor, causing a smokescreen to envelop the area. "Well, whatever they are doing, they look like a promising first members for my gang." Using the smoke as cover, Toph advanced on the three strangers. "Back to the present, and you all know what happened after that." Toph crossed her arms sulking. "So you're an escaped criminal who has already attacked a previous host." Chichi stood up suddenly. "I cannot in good faith allow this criminal to endanger the well-being of Handler-san." "It's not your call to make," Smith pointed out. That is, Chichi glanced at Naruto. "Surely you cannot be thinking of accepting this delinquent into our house. Aren't you being a little harsh there?" Naruto frowned softly. I apologize." Chichi lowered her head. "I do not mean to be, but there is just something about her that gets under my skin. Don't worry, many people feel inferior in my presence." "A stupid copper would never be able to put it into words," Toph declared as Chichi barely held herself back. "Do you want to be deported?" Naruto asked Toph. "Hell no," she shook her head. "I decided I was going to do this exchange thing, and my pride means I won't give up on it. But you realize that if you keep antagonizing Chichi, I can't really let you stay here." Naruto pointed out. "Why should I care about that?" "Because this is your last chance," Smith cut in. "Either you play nice or you go home." "DCH, fine." Toph crossed her arms. "I ain't playing nice with the copper, but if she leaves me alone I'll leave her alone. I will endeavor to avoid conflict." Chichi frowned. "A police officer should always seek to disarm conflict rather than escalate it." "That's great." Smith nodded. "So we're all agreed." "Yeah," Toph replied flippantly. "Welcome to the farm, I guess." Naruto smiled at Toph. "Whatever, boss." Toph merely crossed her arms and leaned back in her chair, putting her bare feet on the table, much to Kaguya's disgust. As per Article 21E, subsection 2, which states a diplomatic representative is required to follow any orders and accept any decisions made by the handler, unless this violates a primary law, I have no choice but welcome you to the household. Chichi narrowed her eyes at Toph. I shall be sure to correctly instruct you on how to behave. Fight me? Toph stood up. Well, that seems to be sorted then. Ms. Smith interrupted the two liminals. Unless anyone else has anything to say. She glanced at Kaguya. Another charity case. Kaguya glared at Naruto. How are you supposed to fulfill your duties as my servant if you keep taking on these hopeless cases? Hopeless? Chichi frowned. Don't put me in the same category as that copper. You are so dreadfully common and shameless. She pointed at Chichi. The vulgar spider and her foul name. Chichi scowled whilst Toph snickered. And you with your shameless attire and complete absence of manners. Kaguya pointed to Toph, who stopped snickering and opened her mouth, probably to tell Kaguya to fight her. Fortunately, the conversation was derailed by a certain sunglasses-wearing coordinator. Oh look, Ms. Smith interrupted the argument. It looks like food is ready. And not a moment too soon, Naruto sighed as the two liminals and Kaguya settled down as his clones walked in carrying various meals for the people at the table. All the while Chichi and Toph were glaring at each other and shooting the odd glance at Kaguya, who merely ignored them for the most part. When will your friend join us? Oh, I forgot to call her in, Smith smiled. I told her to wait for my cue. Come on in, Tio. Her? Tio? Naruto and Kaguya shared a glance. So the ogre who carried me around like a sack of corn is here. I'll bet she is all muscles and has a face not even a mother could love. Probably has severe body odor issues as well. She's probably of the lowest possible birth, so much so that she makes that useless servant look like the epitome of grace. Kaguya smirked as she imagined a dumb-looking ogre missing most of its teeth and dragging a crude club across the floor. Sorry I'm late. The armor is difficult to remove without help. A feminine voice called out as Tio re-entered the kitchen. She paused awkwardly as Naruto and Kaguya stared at her. Is something the matter? Well, Naruto laughed weakly. How can I tell her? I thought she was going to be some huge guy kind of like that guy Han we had to fight before Kaguya appeared. You mean Kakuo's Jinchuriki? Yeah, him. Naruto smiled softly. I can't forget any of their names. They entrusted me with them. Hakurama seemed amused and touched. Then they were right to trust you. But still, maybe you should stop staring at the girl now. Ah. Naruto looked away from the self-conscious Tio. I thought you were a guy under all that armor. Sorry. I get that a lot, Tio pouted slightly. I guess I don't look very girly in it. But you look super girly in that. Naruto desperately tried to redeem himself. I mean that dress is so pretty and frilly. He faltered weakly, gesturing to the dress she was wearing. She was wearing a long yellow dress with pale yellow frills along the seams and hem, as well as a small red jacket. If there was a word that could be used to describe it, cute was probably the first thing that would come to mind. Super girly. Kaguya felt annoyed for some reason. Why is he drooling over that giant harlot? My kimono is far more dignified than that. I mean, look at it. You can see her ankles. She has no shame. You think so? Tio's face brightened. Thank you. Several clones walked into the dining area. You? Kaguya frowned at Tio. Do you not know how to handle nobility? Pardon? There was a flicker of confusion across the ogre's face. You threw me over your shoulder like I was an old sack. Well, she was half right, Naruto mumbled under his breath. If Kaguya heard his remark, she gave no sign of it. As royalty, I should be treated with much more respect than that. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. Tio bowed her head respectfully. Well, Kaguya faltered as Tio's natural warm aura started to affect her. I guess I can forgive you. Nobility is all about overlooking the failures of the lesser classes. Wow, I think that is the first time Kaguya has genuinely forgiven someone. Naruto chuckled. I think all she's ever done is berate me. Well, maybe if you weren't a completely useless servant I wouldn't have to. Kaguya responded bluntly. I see you two are still on good terms, Smith smiled mischievously. He knows his place. Kaguya picked up the chopsticks she had refused to take from Naruto to lift up a small carrot from her meal and place it next to one of her bunnies. What kind of boss lets himself get ordered around like that? Toph's tongue fired out to snatch her plate of food, which she began to eat with her bare hands. If you tried that with me I'd teach you some respect. Like you could teach me anything. Kaguya lifted a fork full of salad to her mouth, only to see it stolen by Toph's long tongue. Try me, bunny hag. Toph spat the salad out and stared at Kaguya with a victorious grin. How common? Kaguya's face screwed up with disgust. You've been awfully quiet, Chichi, Naruto turned to the Irachn. I feel that you are making a mistake allowing that toad into this household. It appears her every action is calculated to irritate the other members of the household. And I bet all the criminals you're going to catch are going to be cooperative. Naruto pointed out. I see, Chichi's eyes widened. In dealing with Nectarfree-san I will be gaining experience in dealing with troubled youths. I apologize for my earlier statement. Chichi bowed her head. Despite lacking any formal qualifications as a handler, you are proving a most resourceful teacher. Don't worry about it. Naruto waved off her bow and stood up to go to the kitchen. I'll see how dessert is coming along. He headed to the kitchen where all of his clones were sitting around playing cards. So are you going to pretend that this was all part of your plan? You know me. I dive in head first then plan as everything starts to fall apart. That's usually a bad idea, yet it always seems to work for you. Kurama admitted. How long until the desserts are ready? Naruto asked. How long is a piece of string? One of the clones called back. Say Naruto, I've been meaning to ask. Why are you putting up with being given all these responsibilities, not to mention Kaguya's crappy attitude? Aren't we going to go back home? You and me both know I still intend to go home as soon as I find a way back home. As for Kaguya, I feel a little guilty. I'm responsible for her current state, and even if she was trying to bring about the end of the world as we know it, I don't think she's a bad person. Just misguided. Ever the foolish optimist. Despite his words, Kurama seemed amused. And what about your other house guests? What are you going to do with them? I guess I would make a pretty sucky Hokage if I didn't help them out a little. Naruto admitted. But what if they want to come back to our world? You have something of a gift for getting people to like you for some reason beyond my understanding. It's possible they may not want to leave you. They belong in this world. Naruto's face darkened slightly. Can you imagine what Orochimaru and his cronies would do if they got a hold of them? There'll be those who'll want to weaponize them or worse. True, Kurama conceded. Just try not to get too attached. We don't belong here. I know, Kurama. Naruto sighed heavily. Dessert is ready now. One of the clones gestured to a set of trays which had various small cakes on it. This is the last of the supplies that Smith left us though. Yeah, Naruto frowned as he picked up the tray and took it to the table. I'll have to arrange a shopping trip or for Ms. Smith to get us some more supplies. She's probably eaten and drank most of them herself after all. You say that as if you dislike the company. Meal times are certainly more lively now. I imagine this is what it would be like if I had a family, you know. Lively's one word for it. Kurama chuckled as Naruto returned to a war zone that was once his dining room. While he didn't know what had happened in his absence, Smith was sitting at table staring into space, her glasses slightly askew as she sipped on her coffee. Toph was handcuffed to a chair that she was wielding as a club to try and repel a bunny who was sitting on the table, while Chichi was struggling with a bunny rabbit that was trying to chew on her arm. The guy appeared largely unaffected, although was glaring at everyone, while Tio hugged several bunnies to her chest and was gushing about how cute they were. I'm not even going to ask. I apologize for my behavior, Chichi said as she finally managed to pry the rabbit from her arm. I should not have allowed Nectar-Free-Scent to get me riled up. I shall reflect on this failure. I regret nothing, Toph happily declared. I gotta show these fools who the boss is around here. Dessert is served. Naruto placed the tray on the table and Kaguya jerked her head slightly, causing all the rabbits, besides the ones unable to escape from Tio's hug, quickly left the table. I see you are adapting to your role of servant well. Kaguya smirked. You are currently ranked 124. 124. 129. No, make that 132. You are counting your bunnies above me, aren't you? Naruto deadpanned. 139. Just eat your damn cake. Naruto grumbled. Oh my, Tio smiled, finally releasing the rabbits who were reluctant to leave Tio's warm aura, much to Kaguya's displeasure. They're tiny cakes. They look so cute. I'm glad you like them, Naruto glanced at her. I think there's even a coffee cake here. Don't mind if I do, Smith swooped in and claimed the small cake. How amusing, Kaguya watched Tio delicately eat the much smaller cake. Despite your mammoth size, you are truly feminine, aren't you? A woman like you might have even found place in a noble court as a courtesan of some lesser noble. I see. Tio slumped slightly. Don't listen to her, Naruto shot a warning look at Kaguya. What did I do? Kaguya returned the look with a glare, a strange mix of emotions swirling through her head. Confusion, anger and more than a hint of betrayal, which she quickly suppressed. She was well aware that despite his unofficial title of servant, Naruto was not a member of her retinue, not that she had one anymore. They were still enemies, she was just his prisoner. A trophy of his victory and a stark reminder for her that she failed to save her home. The meal was satisfactory. Kaguya stood up from the table suddenly. I shall retire. Don't you want to talk with Ms. Smith? Naruto asked. I have neither the need nor desire to converse with those below my station any more than I have already. There was an edge to her voice as she left the room. Erike? Naruto was slightly taken aback by her sudden departure. The rest of the group continued eating in an awkward silence, with the sole exception of Tio who happily ate her cake, seeming to enjoy every bite. So, Chichi cleared her throat. I was wondering what agency you are part of. She looked at Tio. Me? That armor you were wearing doesn't look like it's from a civilian outfit. Chichi continued. In my studies of police armaments I don't recall seeing any armor like that. Well, being a member of MON has its benefits, Smith nodded. MON? I'm surprised you haven't heard of it, Smith raised an eyebrow. MON are monster operations. Neutralization is a special task force for when liminals break the law. Normal police can't touch them due to the nature of the exchange treaty, so we needed a liminal task force capable of dealing with such threats. Couldn't you just have liminals in the police force? Chichi asked. There's no reason why not, Smith conceded. Although as a special agency, Mon has some freedom to act as it sees fit. She smiled. Which helps us avoid getting bogged down in red tape. As well as Tio here there's Minako, Doppel and Zambina. They are a small but effective team. Smith nodded happily. Plus, they can fill in their own paperwork, so that saves me a ton of work. I see, Chichi nodded. Thinking of applying? Tio asked. No. Chichi shook her head. As a special forces agent, most of the work would be in secret, correct? I guess so, Smith nodded. Mon doesn't really do much public work. I want to be a police officer so that everyone can see that Arachne aren't the scary monsters they appear to be, but people the same everyone else. I have to be seen publicly working to inspire other liminal species to work hard to disprove the stereotypes. Huh, Smith waved her empty cup at Naruto who rolled his eyes and summoned a cage bunshin to get her another. That's a noble goal. It'll take a lot of hard work and training to accomplish. I know. Chichi nodded. And I'm prepared to give it my all. Don't worry there, Toph smirked. I'll help you train. I'll get you some donuts and you can sit around on your fat ass eating them. Perfect cop training. I would not expect one such as you to understand the nobility of a police officer. Chichi retorted, her cheeks coloring slightly at the mention of her large posterior. Still I have to admit that armor is pretty badass, Toph leaned forward. I'm guessing it's a custom fit. Yes, Tio frowned. It's so difficult to find clothes in my size. Just the other day I saw this really cute dress, but it was only in human sizes. I was so disappointed. I'm somewhat fortunate that my top half is fairly human-shaped. Chichi nodded. I know that feeling, Naruto nodded. Back home it was so hard for me to find an awesome orange sweatsuit. The only ones I could ever find were only for little kids, not a growing young man like myself. Somehow I don't think that your issue is as severe as Tio's, Smith shook her head. I don't get what all the fuss is about looking cute. Toph leaned forward, resting her head in her hands and her elbows on the table. I'd much rather have something practical that doesn't hold me back in a fight. There's nothing wrong with wanting to look presentable rather than like some street gang member. Chichi scolded Toph. Geez, Tio pouted. There's nothing wrong with looking good, you know. She crossed her arms, unintentionally lifting her already impressive bust. Trying to say you need big tits to look good, Toph twitched. Breast size has nothing to do with anything. Chichi frowned. Of course you'd say that. Toph stood on her chair. You're looking down on us less developed girls. We'll see how much your tits count for when I mash your face up so bad you look like a Picardo painting. Do you mean Picasso? Smith ventured. Whatever. Toph yelled. Like I have time to waste remembering crappy painters and their names. I've got fights to fight. She finished weakly before hyping herself up again. Especially any of those bastards who judge people on whether they are cute or not. Please calm yourself, Tio smiled at Toph. Nectafree is cute as well. I meant no offense. Toph sighed as Tio's warming aura enveloped her and sapped away her anger and energy, leaving her feeling tired. Whatever. Naruto shook his head. You're pretty amazing. I don't suppose you'd consider moving in here? Her calming aura could potentially solve a lot of issues. Yeah, it even affects Kaguya. That's pretty impressive. Kurama agreed. Oh my, Tio blushed shyly. You're too kind. Hey, Smith pushed up her glasses and pulled a gun from her suit. What do you think you are doing? Naruto blinked. Trying to steal Tio. Do you know how much harder my job would be without her to keep the rest of those knuckleheads in line? She fired several tranquilizer darts at Naruto. Stop trying to increase my workload. Wow, you'll do anything to get out of doing more work, huh? Naruto shook his head. Smith-san works very hard most of the time. Tio smiled. I'm glad she's our liaison officer. Aw, thanks Tio, Smith smiled. You must be some sort of angel to see the good in Ms. Smith. Hey, stop that. Naruto cried out as Smith emptied the last of the tranquilizer darts into Naruto. I'll stop when you stop trying to seduce Tio from my task force. Smith pulled the trigger until the gun clicked empty. How are you still conscious? Smith checked the cartridge. I must have put enough tranq darts into you to knock out a full-grown elephant. Well, I feel fine. Naruto blinked as the darts failed to have any effect thanks to Kurama. Maybe the darts were defective. Smith glanced at her gun. Are you 100% sure you're human? She joked. Pretty sure I am. Naruto plucked the darts from his chest and arms. Not that I see why it matters. Even if I was a liminal it wouldn't make much difference, right? Well, you say that, Ms. Smith smiled. You see, the law says that humans cannot harm liminals, and vice versa. The law clearly states this in article Chichi started. We don't need to hear the exact wording, you damn copper. Toph grumbled. Chichi did mention that when Toph first attacked. Naruto nodded. You see, the definition of harm is incredibly vague in the document and it also covers sexual contact. What? Naruto blinked. A human cannot have sex with a liminal, nor any other sort of deeply intimate physical contact, even kissing. Naruto blinked. What happens if the rules are broken? Oh, got your eye on one of your lovely guests. Smith smirked. Basically the offender would be sent to jail and the exchange students sent back to their own country in disgrace. That's bullshit. Naruto slammed his clenched fist on the table. I don't get it. Toph smirked. But you're clearly fired up, boss. Let's go smash some skulls. If two people fall in love, two adults who are perfectly capable of making their own decisions, what does it matter what species they are? Naruto glared at Smith. Huh, she chuckled. Wasn't expecting you to get so fired up. I was only joking about you having a soft spot for one of the girls, but now I am actually starting to wonder. It's not like that, Naruto shook his head. Not that I'm saying the girls aren't attractive. I mean Chichi is an attractive woman, and Toph is too, if you like that kind of girl. I'm flattered, but in all honesty I'd rather fight you than have sex with you. Toph remarked bluntly. As aforementioned, it would be improper for any relationship to bloom between us other than that of a handler and his guest. Chichi seemed a little flustered. Though I will admit it is odd to hear a human call one of my people attractive. Well, Smith chuckled. It seems I have nothing to worry about then. I'd best be headed back to the office to finalize all of the paperwork for the transfer. Good luck, Smith chuckled as Naruto helped Tio carry her armor to the transport. I guess I'll see you soon. I'd be surprised if you weren't here for breakfast. Naruto deadpanned. Well, if you are offering. I wasn't, not that I'm expecting that to stop you. Naruto shook his head. Here you go. Tio lifted a small and tattered sports bag out of the back of the van. What the hell is this? Naruto scowled. It's Nectafree's personal effects. Tio happily handed the bag to Naruto. Personal effects? Naruto glanced at the bag that had clearly seen better days. Like her clothes and stuff. I think it's mostly chest bindings and her bakken. Tio explained. She doesn't have a change of clothes. Naruto blinked. I mean, I don't either, but I exactly wasn't expecting to end up here. You only have one outfit. Tio clapped her hands together. You should go on a shopping trip. That reminds me, our supplies are running a little low. He glanced at Ms. Smith, who was talking to the driver. Could you do something about that? Oh? Smith blinked. Well, I guess I can issue you a permit to go into the city. Permit? You're technically hosting dangerous liminals, so you need special permission to go into an urban area with them. Smith frowned. But the permit is a pain to sort out. I could just take you and Kaguya shopping since you don't need permit for her. I'll see what I can do, Smith waved dismissively. Thanks. Naruto stepped back and watched them get into the van and drive away. Another day over and done with. Hard to believe this is only the second day in this world, isn't it? Yeah. Handler-san, Chichi approached him. If it is okay, I shall retire for the night. Of course, Naruto smiled at her. You don't need to ask me permission. Plus you can just call me Naruto, you know. That would not be showing you the respect you are due, as per article. I get it, Naruto shook his head. I guess I could order you to call me Naruto, but if you don't want to I won't force it. Good night. He nodded to Chichi who made her way to her room. So where am I sleeping, boss? Toph asked as Naruto walked back into the kitchen. Oh right, Naruto frowned. Well, there's only the one bedroom that I recently finished. I was going to take it myself, but I guess it wouldn't hurt to let Toph have it. If you keep this up you'll fill up all the rooms in this place and still not have a bedroom. Still at least it'll be lively. That's one way of looking at it I suppose. Kurama chuckled. Huh, Toph walked into the indicated room. A little bare isn't it, boss? Well, feel free to personalize it. Huh, Toph dived on the bed. Damn, I missed a proper bed. Didn't you have one back at your old host's house? Nah, I didn't even have a futon, just some pillows and a blanket. Toph scowled. Never mind my own room. Here, Naruto handed over the sports bag. Tio said these are your effects. Awesome, Toph snatched the bag and tossed its contents over the floor into a heap. There were several scuffed hats and trousers, as well as several rolls of bandages. Found it. Toph declared happily as she pulled a bakken from the mess and swung it through the air a few times. Good night, Naruto chuckled as he shook his head. I'll see you in the morning. Sure, boss. Toph tossed the empty bag on top of her pile of clothes as Naruto left the room. On his way back towards the kitchen, he paused slightly outside Kaguya's door. Maybe I should say something to her. Like what? I don't know. Maybe ask her if she is alright. Knowing her, she'd probably take that as you pitying her and would only get even more upset with you. I'd advise leaving her alone to cool down a little. Okay, Naruto carried on walking down the hallway, unaware of Kaguya's own turmoil in her room. Part of her was ashamed of her actions. As a noble she should have behaved with more dignity rather than leave the room like some sort of sullen child. She wasn't even entirely sure why she had left. She rolled over in her bed as she heard Naruto walk downstairs. Once again he relegates himself to the kitchen and gives up a warm bed to some freeloader. Kaguya frowned. He always puts others ahead of himself, huh? What an idiot. She grumbled to the small group of bunnies laid atop of the duvet. Is that why he annoys me so much? She pondered. Is it because he always acts like some sort of saint when I know the truth? That he's selfish and puts his own desires before the peace of the world we once knew? Or maybe he is aware of this, and this kindness of his is purely an attempt to redeem himself. One of the rabbit's nose twitched. Or maybe he truly thinks he was doing what was best. I suppose what's done is done and he is suffering as well as I. Certainly not to my degree, though, she muttered darkly as she looked at her empty kimono sleeve. We will see what the morning brings, Kaguya looked out of the window. And I will apologize. It is my duty as a noble to shape him into a better person. She decided as she finally settled down in her bed. It won't be easy, she mumbled sleepily. But nothing worth doing ever is. Chichi's room. Kaguya was not the only one who was deep in thought. As Chichi laid in her hammock, wearing a long shirt that was specially designed to cover everything that modesty demanded with her book on famous police incidents in hand, she found herself unable to focus on the gangland slaying of police officers in Okinawa during 1990. Her mind was too busy thinking over Naruto's earlier words. A human finding an Arachnid attractive. Chichi frowned softly. I never thought I would hear that. I mean, maybe some of us are attractive to humans on our top half, but our abdomen and legs aren't really that appealing to humans. She glanced at her arachnid half. But Handler-san didn't even mention them. Maybe there are some humans who can see past physical appearances. Chichi found herself smiling softly. This development filled her with hope. If there are more people that can see me for me, then maybe, just maybe, this exchange program will help others see liminals for who they are, not what they are. Chichi put the book neatly on her table. There was a crashing noise from next door, where Chichi assumed Toph was staying. Maybe I'm just as guilty though. I haven't exactly tried to get along with Toph. For Handler-san's sake I'd best make peace with her. Chichi clambered out of her hammock and made her way towards the room that she had heard Naruto enter with Toph and knocked politely. What is it? Toph yelled. It's Chichi, she took a deep breath. I wish to apologize for my earlier behavior. Fine, come in then, Toph grumbled. I just wanted to say. Chichi froze. What happened here? Did someone break into this room before you moved in? Eh? Toph looked around. What's the issue? Your room is a bomb site. There were clothes strewn everywhere. All of her drawers were open, some even completely ripped out of the cabinet, and there were slash marks on the wallpaper. It looks alright to me. Toph frowned. Added a bit of character to the room while I was training I guess, but nothing major. You did this? You've barely been in this room 12 minutes. Chichi blinked. How can you live in such a messy room? Quite easily, Toph dived onto her bed. Chichi opened her mouth but found herself lost for words. Weren't you going to apologize? Toph prompted. I am sorry for acting hostile earlier. Chichi forced out. But I would recommend cleaning this room. Like hell I will, Toph snorted. It's my room and the boss said I am free to personalize it how I like. But if you keep it like this you'll attract rodents and then it becomes everyone's problem. More like everyone else's problem, Toph remarked. I wouldn't mind a rat pet. I am leaving before I say something I might regret. Chichi turned to leave the room. Whatever you say, copper. Toph threw her hat on the floor and tossed her jacket to one side where it fell in a crumpled heap. It took all of Chichi's self-control to not react and just leave the bomb site and return to her pristine room. It would be a challenge to deal with Toph, but she remembered what Naruto said earlier. This would be good practice for her future career as a policewoman. Picking up a book marked Interacting with the Public, an officer's guidebook, Chichi clambered back into her bed and read until she drifted to sleep, her dreams full of delinquent toads committing crimes as she desperately tried to arrest them all. Theo's apartment. I'm home. Theo called out as she entered her room, smiling as she saw her huge collection of cute plush animals waiting for her on her large pink bed. As would be expected from a girl who loved girly things, her room was bright pink, with her bed looking like that of a princess, complete with frilly curtains surrounding it. She walked over to her phone to see a flashing red light. Oh, I wonder who called. She picked it up and checked her missed calls. Oh, it was someone in the office. She pressed redial and laid back on her bed, hugging the nearest plush animal to her generous chest as she waited for a voice on the other end of the line. About damn time. Zambina's frustrated voice sounded over the phone. Don't you answer your mobile. This is my home phone. Theo pointed out. Huh? Ah, damn it. Smith-san must have entered your work number under a different one, so I couldn't get in contact with you until you finished your mission. Zambina groaned. Is something wrong? Yeah. I'm stuck in the office at freaking 8:30. Zambina whined. Smith-san left all her paperwork for us to do. Us? That's right, Minako and Doppel are here as well. Zambina grumbled. I'll bet while we were working our asses off you were out having fun, weren't you? I'll bet you got into a massive fight. Well, there was a fight, Theo tilted her head. There was, damn it, how do I always miss the fun jobs? Maybe because Smith-san is fed up with filing requisition forms whenever your armor gets shot to high hell. Doppel's voice could be heard through the phone line. That's no excuse. Zambina whined. I'll bet you enjoyed yourself, didn't you, getting to fight the toad type again? There were cute bunnies. Tio hugged the plush animal to her chest. I got to hug some. Eh? Zambina sounded confused. There was a fight and you were too busy hugging bunny rabbits, what? No, I'm not done talking. Give me the phone back. Hello? Minako's soft voice replaced Zambina's, although she could be heard complaining loudly in the background. Hi. Tio rolled over on the bed. Hello, Minako responded quietly. Zambina-chan was wondering what else happened on the mission. I'll bet she threw that transport at the toad type. Zambina could be heard in the background. Most definitely. Did you see the state it was in when it returned? Doppel's voice had a teasing edge to it. No, wait, how did you? Oh, you and Minako seemed so focused on your work, so I decided to take a brief stroll to stretch my legs. I saw it return, but unfortunately Smith-san wasn't in it. Damn it. Did you hear that? Minako asked over the phone. Geez, Tio pouted as she sat up on her bed. I didn't throw the transport. I didn't even throw a punch. Naruto-san returned and the fight just stopped. I was looking at the maps and wondering why it took so long. Minako asked. Were there a lot of difficulties? Not really, Tio smiled happily. We all had a meal together. It was pretty fun. There were these really cute little cakes that were delicious. Then we talked about clothes a little. I guess you wouldn't want me there. Minako went quiet. That's not true, Tio assured the shy Manai. I mean, you always send me far away when you're fighting. That's because you're a sniper. Yeah. Zambina could be heard over the phone. That's why I keep telling you to saw the barrels off the end of the rifles and dual wield them. Then you can charge in with me and Tio. It would look so badass. I'd be spraying bullets everywhere, you'd be dropping big targets like they were nothing, and Tio would throw a tank at someone, but my arms would fall off from the recoil. Minako weakly protested. Here, give me the phone. Doppel's voice became clear. So you had a meal with this new handler, huh? That's right. He made it himself. Oh, he did, huh? Sounds like he was pulling out all the stops. What do you mean? Maybe he's a breasts kind of guy. Doppel sounded amused. He was probably trying to seduce you. I don't think Naruto-san is that kind of person. Tio replied honestly. He seems to be a genuinely nice person. Oh? You know him that well, huh? Must have been a very intimate meal. Geez, Tio puffed her cheeks out, not that Doppel could see it. It wasn't like that. There was Smith-san and the toad-type bullywig, and there was also a long-legs type Arachne or a kind of bunny type, I think. Oh, that'd be that Kaguya one, right? Doppel sounded somewhat disappointed that her teasing hadn't triggered any reactions worth noting. Right. Still, do you think that handler is cute? Cute? Tio tilted her head. I don't know. He's kind of handsome, I guess. Oh? Doppel sounded interested. So maybe you're the one who likes him then. Geez, this was the first time we spoke together. He didn't even know I was a girl until today. He seems nice enough, but I wouldn't say there are any feelings between us. How tragic. Doppel sighed dramatically. Goodbye, Doppel-chan. Tio sighed as she hung up and laid down on her bed, staring at ceiling, hugging the plush animal to her chest. Although he did ask me to live with him a few times. Maybe he does have a crush on me. I'll have to let him down gently. She nodded to herself before getting out of bed to get showered and ready for sleep. At Mon's office. She hung up. Doppel sighed as she handed the phone to Minako. Wait, did you tell her to get in here to help us? Zambina asked. Oh right, that's why we rang her in the first place, wasn't it? My bad. The three Mon girls looked at the intimidating pile of paperwork. It appears she disconnected her phone. Minako frowned. Maybe she really didn't want to talk to me again. Damn it all. Zambina wailed. Damn that Smith for setting us up like this, and damn that Tio for having a perfectly good reason for not being here. It isn't as if you can die from overworking, Doppel pointed out. It's me and Minako who should be complaining. Just because I can't die from exhaustion doesn't mean she can work me to the bone. I'm a zombie, not a skeleton, damn it. Zambina slumped in her chair. Oh, I just got a message from Smith-san. Minako glanced at the phone. Is it you guys can take tomorrow off as thanks? Zambina asked hopefully. Don't forget that the registration forms are to be submitted by midnight. Have fun, P. Minako read aloud. Smith. Zambina roared in anguish. And that's the end of the third chapter and the second day. What if Kaguya Otsutsuki unlocked the legacy of Naruto? Thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.